nine ball is rotation pool. The balls are pocketed in numbered order. The only ball that means anything, that wins it, is the 9. Now the player can shoot 8 trick shots in a row, blow the 9, and lose. On the other hand, the player can get the 9 and on the break if the players spread right and win, which is to say that luck plays a part in 9 ball. But for some players, luck itself is an art.
I only got 2 balls.
Newman, Cruz, Scorsese. The
Is
color
that-
of money.
Wait, does Scorsese do that narration?
Scorsese does the opening narration, yes.
That's right. What a wily coyote.
I love him so much.
Oh, Wile E. Coyote.
I feel like he makes every movie about himself.
Yes, but in
Isn't
the
that every
cutest of
director?
ways.
Yeah.
Every director ever.
Yes and yes to both of you.
Yeah,
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Crown of Canon. It is I, Brandon, speaking.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Frank.
And this is a podcast. We're smoking
yeah.
movies and we're talking weed.
Sure are.
We're live in our ears,
Not
not
yours.
yours. And
Mhm.
if you don't like Michael Mann's Heat from 1995, then you need to see yourself out. please.
Also, if
Goodbye.
you protested the stay-home orders, you have to go.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
still on
yeah.
that one because we're still in quarantine.
Welcome.
So we're hunkering down for another full day of recording and
Excuse
watching.
me. Excuse me.
flicks.
Excuse me.
me. If you haven't seen Heat, that's fine.
That is okay.
Ah,
you
yes.
can stay.
Okay, sorry. I didn't
Otherwise,
get
you
the prompt
gotta
finish.
go
Yes.
along with the non-abiding citizens.
Hey, if you're mad, we're not going to include this in every episode, but if you're mad that you have to stay home but are still doing it, you can stay.
Yeah, you can stay.
Yes.
You don't gotta be glad about it.
Yeah. But,
No.
do your civic duty.
We did lie about our recording process last time. We said we were going to do 3 episodes in
Nope.
one day. We only did 2.
2.
So today's a new day in quarantine.
Yes, it is.
Welcome.
And we are doing this week's and next week's for sure.
For sure. Maybe the 3rd week.
We
but
shot low.
probably
We shot
not.
low, and we're gonna not aim high
Yeah.
for this one.
Yeah.
We learned a thing or two from the movies we watched. You got to lose.
Oh, you're right.
You do
Yeah,
gotta
you
lose.
do gotta lose, and then you gotta be ambiguous a little bit with some really cheesy '80s music to accent. it at
Very
the end.
cheesy.
and a
80s.
freeze frame.
And like jazzy 60s
Oh yeah, by
music.
the way, spoilers. This is a spoiler-filled
Oh, yeah.
podcast. If you didn't know it, that was the end of The Color of Money that I just
Yeah.
spoiled for you. So sorry.
Yeah. Today's movie that we're talking about.
Yes.
Martin Scorsese.
10th feature film, right?
Which is yes, an underrated film. Another one.
Yeah.
I
Dude,
think.
yeah. Me too.
Because
I had never heard of this.
Well, okay, just for starters, to talk about it, because Paul Newman is a name that's going to come up a lot today, before we get into whatever prompt that we're going to talk about. My family has always had this strange affinity for Paul Newman, even going so far as to travel to Connecticut, where he lived, to try and meet him, like in his hometown. So,
Try?
okay,
Did
to
it-
go back
did
to
it
the King
work?
of Comedy episode real quick, my family Rupert Pupkined Paul Newman.
Wait, did it work though?
No, we didn't meet him, but like we went to.
Your whole family flew out? Like,
No,
all
we
of
didn't
you?
fly out. We drove there because
Oh,
my
much
my
better.
little brother was obsessed with Paul Newman. He's like his favorite actor. He's like his idol. He did write to Paul Newman while Paul Newman was still alive, and Paul Newman wrote him back with
Yeah.
an
Paul
autograph.
Newman's dead?
Now he is. Yeah,
Yeah. He died early 2010s.
we
like,
definitely had the
or
discussion about
2000
that.
Late.
Rip.
When the fuck
Yes,
did Paul do?
It's Westport, Connecticut. That's fucking where.
Yeah,
he was.
Westport, and he died in 2008.
Oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure that we went out there right around the time that he passed too. But I think it was before still.
Yeah.
And I know that we went and saw a play at the Westport Playhouse where he was directing a lot of theater at the
Oh,
time.
nice.
And I think the play we saw may have been directed by him, but he wasn't there. So I don't know. But yeah, it definitely wasn't as facetious as Rupert Pupkin's intentions. We definitely were just like, we want to tell you how great you are and then drive back home in our Honda Odyssey. But,
Also an excuse to go to Connecticut, I guess.
I mean, is Connecticut cool?
sorry
the
to,
state-
sorry to anyone who's from Connecticut.
It's the state I know like the least about.
I don't remember much. It seemed
Okay.
pretty by the numbers as far as like states are concerned. Just like
Yeah.
it's definitely the East.
Okay,
Welcome
okay.
to the Crown of Canon, where we review the geography of the United States.
I'm
Yeah.
not shit talking Connecticut, just for the record.
I am though.
Okay.
I've never been, but fuck you.
Who are you?
I'm Frank.
I'm Jesse,
Brandon.
and this is a spoiler-filled podcast once again.
Yeah.
Just to remind you once more that if you have not seen The Color of Money or The Hustler,
Oh yeah.
you should probably leave now.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about
Both movies
both
are
a
here.
little bit.
But first, what do you want to talk about?
Sports movies. These are technically sports movies.
Well,
I mean,
this is technically Scorsese's second too, if you think about it.
it is. Well, that was on my short list of things. I was gonna say, like, do you guys like sports movies? I feel like as a general rule, I don't. And when I was going through trying to find some favorites, like I was skimming, I could drum up 5 for sure. that I like really love.
Lay 'em
and
on
that's
me.
like Space Jam. I'm
Ha,
not even
nice.
being,
Of course.
I'm not even joking. That is my favorite.
Can I
sports movie.
make a brief aside, just
Yes.
real quick,
Yeah.
a quick
Go ahead.
story about Space Jam?
Sure. Come
I-
on and slam.
I have not. Throw up the jam. I loved Space Jam as a kid.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since I was probably like 2 years old.
That's a shame.
Brandon invited me. This is also a rare thing that another person invites Frank or I to a movie theater to go see a movie that we didn't prompt ourselves,
Mhm.
which is, sad. But it's very nice in that case when the special occasion does arise in which one of our other friends will offer a chance to go to the movies to see something they want to see.
Uh-huh.
Space Jam was playing at a local theater at midnight,
Yeah.
like last summer. We were very excited to go see it. I was very excited to be re-antiquated with this masterpiece.
Frank,
just
you remember
I just remember.
we were talking about Space Jam
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
summer. Every day at work, we just be like, man,
Yeah.
I'm so ready to slam. Like I fucking because
Yeah.
I found the soundtrack in my car,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I can just listen
Yeah.
to this on repeat
Yeah.
now.
And now I'm not going to oust our friend who was with us because they may be embarrassed. So I don't know. I'm not going to oust him. But we were with a friend who ended up smoking so much weed and drinking so much booze that they literally passed out within the first 5 minutes of Space Jam. They got up within the first
children's
3.
movie.
Yeah. Well, it was midnight
Yeah,
at a
I
theater,
know.
so it was
I
all
mean,
adults
just-
and stuff.
Just still.
But he got up out of nowhere. Brandon and I were like, oh, okay, he's leaving. Where's he going? And then all of a sudden, I just look over and he's down, like in the doorway to the theater. And we're like, oh, God. And Brandon and I both get up, go pick him up, walk into the bathroom. It was at least a 45-minute excursion of like trying to get him in the bathroom, making sure he was okay, whether or not we should call an ambulance or something. And then he woke up and was completely fine.
Did you go back in?
No, it was definitely too late by the time.
I mean, it's a very short movie.
Yeah.
It's like 80 minutes at most.
That was one of the scariest moments of my life, but in retrospect, a wild story that all occurred at a midnight screening of Space Jam.
I was way too upset. Like way too upset. Like I was depressed.
You were not talking. You were not speaking.
I was very just like so
And I was
sad.
definitely sad, too, because when the opening scene happened where young Michael Jordan is throwing hoops and his dad comes out, like a rush of nostalgia came over me like I haven't felt in years. Like it was insane.
Go ahead. Shoot till you miss. I love that movie, dude.
And I always think about the fact that he starts as a baseball player. I'm like, how fucking funny.
Yeah.
But definitely a good sports movie. Sorry about that.
No, it's
Continue with your list.
good. Well, I mean, it's the best, so we can just keep talking about Space Jam.
Yeah.
Fuck everything else.
Sorry to our unnamed friend for not calling an ambulance right away.
Well, he was fine.
He was fine, but
So
hey,
you got
man,
lucky.
might not have been.
Yeah, I mean, he was just fucked up. Anyway,
Is dance a sport?
see, I wasn't counting it because but that was I think you could. I think it'd be fine to count dance films as sport movies if you count pool and like poker or bowling, which
Yeah.
a lot of people do. So I think it's fair to count dance. I just have such a personal affinity toward the dance film that
Okay.
I wasn't counting those. Those hold their own genre in my mind.
Right on. Well, I
The
will say,
Footloose, the Suspiria.
I think if you want to call any sport or dance movie a sports movie, you could probably make the case for Showgirls,
okay.
given all the betrayal and
That
climbing up the
doesn't-
ladder.
That doesn't feel like a sport or even a dance movie to me. That's like a satire.
Oh, it's definitely. I mean, it's a satire, but there's dancing
Yeah.
all over it.
Anyway, other sports movies, Raging Bull, obviously, like is up there. Moneyball,
Oh,
an
great, great.
underappreciated movie.
That's
by-
Jonah
Bennett
Hill's
Miller,
breakout, right?
Another underappreciated director with a small filmography.
Oh yeah, Bennett
Should do
Miller.
him eventually because he's good.
4,
Yeah.
literally.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of, I think I now know a sports movie that I wasn't thinking about. So cool.
Foxcatcher.
Foxcatcher, baby.
The only other 2 I wrote down were The Wrestler. And
Oh,
then
nice.
Color of Money, honestly, is probably like my 5th favorite sports
So,
movie.
yeah, spoiler alert. We loved The Color of Money
Yeah.
on the
It's fun.
Chronic Canon.
And
It was pretty cool.
I don't know. Well, Brandon, did you love it?
I mean, I thought it was cool.
Okay.
we'll be blunt later.
Yes.
We'll be blown.
I
We'll get there.
I wrote down other ones like Everybody Wants Some, which is like
That definitely counts.
almost. There's like pretty much no baseball,
But
it
they,
has
but they're-
nothing
but
to
it's,
do with
but it's supposed to
baseball, but
surround the atmosphere of a team and like that whole
Okay.
camaraderie thing.
If that's the case, that might swap that with The Wrestler. Like
Okay.
honestly, I fucking love that.
Baseball
movie.
doesn't play into the plot really, other than the fact that they're baseball players.
Right. So that's why I wasn't sure how to count it. Or things
Right.
like
But is there a plot? There's not.
Casino Royale. Just kidding. That's a James Bond movie. I
Well,
don't
it's
know why.
poker, yeah.
Right. Poker's a big part of it.
Is it
So,
poker?
It is.
Okay.
Poker.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Or
it in a while.
Texas Hold'em.
Texas
or
Hold'em, yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
But yeah, so those are like the few sports movies I'd say I like love, but
Yeah.
overall I'm not a huge fan of the genre. Like I'm trying to think of like Remember the Titans rules, but then I'm not a fan of like Rudy.
What about Ali, our boy Michael Mann?
It's not his best.
No.
It's a bummer.
It's long too, isn't it?
It's pretty long. It starts out so good.
You said Will Smith is fine?
I didn't like his performance.
Okay.
But I am in the minority there.
Yeah, fair
I
enough.
want to see it again.
I haven't
think
seen it,
I
for the
couldn't
record.
I couldn't remove the Smith from the Muhammad.
He's a tough one to not see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I-
when he's cast right, he's amazing.
Of course. But a celebrity like that here's a random Tom Cruise connection. He's almost like that now, where it's like you have to be playing off the star power.
Yes.
Like at this point, obviously Color and Money was different because he's young, but I feel like when you get to a certain caliber of famous, you have to be playing off a certain level of star power to like be taken seriously. And
Yes.
obviously Leo, another random tangent. So sorry, I'm taking us down this hole, but like DiCaprio is such a divisive actor because he still tries to play like serious roles and like characters that don't play off of star power and to mix success. Like people seem pretty torn on like, is he actually a great actor or not? DiCaprio.
Oh, yeah. I get that argument for sure, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think he leans towards the great, but
I think he can be great. I just think that sometimes, like they can't all be winners. There's not a single
that's
actor
true.
whose every movie he's been in is phenomenal.
That's not true.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Well, Philip Seymour Hoffman,
No.
and you
As
could
far as
probably-
performance
Yeah.
goes? Are we talking
We're talking
performance
about-
or movie?
Performance.
Yeah.
There's not an actor who fucking hits the bill
Philip
every.
Seymour Hoffman
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
is the one.
I'm gonna
Like
look-
I
I'm gonna
would
look-
say with confidence.
and I
like,
could
has
even
never been
probably
bad.
say Daniel Day-Lewis is up
I'm
there.
taking the quickest glance because I know that. I
Oh,
mean,
shut up.
all
If
right,
you're
you-
about to give shit to Phantom Thread,
That
I
is-
don't want to hear
No,
it.
not Phantom Thread.
Okay.
That's definitely one of his.
You know what?
better ones.
I don't even have to look up the filmography because these are opinions. So I can't just be like, nope, you're wrong. He does bad in this. And
No,
you
no,
have
you
to feel
can
that.
because you're wrong. Phil has never been bad.
I mean, it's not like I don't like Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I can't think of anything off
Has
the
never
top of my
been
head.
bad.
I just think that there's no such thing as a perfect actor.
Other than Philip Seymour.
And James Dean.
what I was gonna say,
3
well,
movies.
Yeah, you got a low batting average. That's
It's pretty good.
Hey, we're saying there's never been an actor whose whole filmography is all good
You're right.
performances. James Dean.
James Dean, and I would literally still stand by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah,
And I was about to say Daniel Day-Lewis sometimes is like a little ridiculous,
Yeah.
where it's like, is this good?
Which would name the movie that you're talking about?
Kind of
Have you
all
guys
of
seen?
them when you think about it sometimes. Like even like There Will Be Blood. Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, okay, but is that like the silliest thing I've ever actually seen?
Yeah.
And I just get roped up in the filmmaking that I'm like okay with it
Yeah.
and fall into the world. But like imagine if you were making a movie and a guy walked on set doing that. You'd be like, all right, take it down 90 notches, pal.
I mean, I did work on a set with a very method actor, and it
Yeah.
was intense to the point where I was intimidated by him.
Right.
But that was very early on in my,
And that's he
Hopefully,
wasn't Daniel
if
Day-Lewis.
we're directors by trade, our hope is that we are the intimidating ones.
I guess. Yeah, you kind of need to be. in
Well,
some
that's what I'm
way.
saying. Like, you can be a softie, but you also have to be able to earn the respect of your
True.
crew and your cast.
There's no way that man was in 69 movies and gave a phenomenal performance every time.
Every
I
single
mean,
one.
he has a 69 batting average, so I'd
I'm
say
just
that's
saying-
pretty good.
I'm saying Phil is perfect. He is always commits. He
Sure.
no matter the size of the role,
Sure.
he's always believable and
Mhm.
he can do everything.
Shut.
It's about
shut,
presence
shut
and
up.
confidence. I think that's key. If you have that, then you're at least able to be likable on screen. Whether or not you're giving a performance is one thing or another. We're going to talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
regardless, as
Yeah,
far
we
as
need
some,
to go back to sports
some sports
movies.
movies that I like, there's not many that come up in my head other than Foxcatcher that
Nice,
we don't
yeah.
already like haven't covered or talked about in some capacity on the pod before. I think because Raging Bull would be up there.
Yeah.
Color Money's definitely
I
up
feel
there.
like we've talked about it. We're not Rocky fans, any of us.
Well,
here.
see, I think I understand why Rocky's important,
Yeah.
and like the template is very good, and I
Yeah.
like the thwarting of expectations in the ending.
at least the first one.
Yes, and in that it creates a cliche for boxing movies down the line, and yet doesn't adhere necessarily to the biggest trope that the guy wins at the end.
Yeah, but they also talk about that Rocky kind of ruined
fucking
movies.
Creed, fucking he ends not winning either.
Stop!
Well, I don't know.
Well, you
That-
can talk about it more in depth. I'm realizing we're just naming the movies you want to talk about.
I just
I might have just spoiled
you
Creed
just
for
spoiled
him.
Creed for me. I
You've
was
never
waiting.
seen Creed?
I thought that maybe I haven't watched it recently because
Oh.
I think I wanted to talk to you guys about doing Googler.
Yes, that would be a good
Googler.
one. He'd
That
be a
means
good
I'd
one.
have to watch Black Panther.
Oh,
Oh, for the culture, Frank.
you know what?
For the culture.
Whatever.
For the culture.
Fuck the culture.
Oh,
What's
there
what
we go.
about culture?
What if
There we
I've
go.
already seen it? Can I
And
just
now
have a
you're
conversation
racist.
about it?
Damn it.
Way to go. You
Caught
had
again.
all you had to do was watch Black Panther.
Fooled again.
Fine, I'll watch the movie.
Back to Foxcatcher, just because I think that's another really underrated movie. I think a better sports movie than Moneyball, but I can totally see where
Yeah.
anyone would make the argument that Moneyball's better. I just like the
Moneyball.
the examination of machismo and all that in Foxcatcher is quite good. And I feel like, if anything, it very much plays into all the themes that Scorsese has been working with like this whole time.
Yeah,
like the John
That's
DuPont,
true.
Mark Schultz characters would definitely lump in with protagonists that Scorsese deals with in his films.
Yeah, but Moneyball's about analytics.
Moneyball is about analytics, and Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt.
So that's the jazz.
That's the jazz. That's definitely one of Brad Pitt's best performances
It
too.
might be his very best.
It's up there.
Billy Bean.
Yeah,
Isn't that
it's so subdued and subtle. Like, I love it.
that and Seven, I think, are honestly my two favorite Brad
Seven's
Pitt
also great.
performances.
But a couple that I want to mention that I haven't seen in a while, but I definitely remember liking, were The Fighter and $1 Million
yeah.
Baby.
I've still never actually seen $1 Million Baby.
I don't remember enough. It was like when I was a kid that I
You know,
saw it.
people do stand by. I mean, a lot of people stand by
Mhm.
Eastwood as a whole.
Yeah. Do we
Like-
count Only God Forgives as a sports movie?
No,
I didn't think so.
like if we
was
did, that would be
boxing.
number one.
Bronson? No, that's a prison movie.
That's prison.
Yeah.
If,
Anyway.
if even
He
that.
boxes in prison, I think.
Brandon, what do you got? What do you got to bring to the table?
So
I know I name checked at least one that you wanted to say.
I'm not
sorry.
a big sports guy per se. I mean, none of us are. And
I like
so
football.
I like
the only
football.
sport that I've ever been passionate about in any sense is baseball, and that's a small
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah,
So let's to your house.
Oh, The Big Lebowski.
yeah. I
Kind-
purposely don't.
sure.
like
Oh,
it that
bowling.
much.
Yeah.
It doesn't count. These are like not. See, that's what I'm saying. My relationship with sports is on the periphery. It's like, oh, if sports is like involved, I like it. But if it's the main focus, it's generally like, oof. Not
Yeah.
my thing.
So to me,
Yeah.
there has to be something going on, like behind the sport a little bit. So I think the first sports movie that ever like caught my attention was Remember the Titans.
Which I do like a lot.
Haven't seen it.
as a
It might
as
be
a,
terrible. Who
as a
knows?
kid, like I remember thinking it was really cool, and
Strong side.
then in high school, I saw it again and remember in high school thinking like, yo, this is kind of powerful. It's only recently in my adult life have I been like, probably has a little bit less merit than I'm giving it. I actually don't know who directed it, so
You guys.
It's somebody.
What?
The Sandlot.
the what?
The Sandlot.
I've never.
Oh
been big on
yeah, I've
Oh.
only seen it once.
Negative Nancy.
Damn.
But other than
James
that,
Earl Jones.
I would say do racing movies count?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Speed Racer fucking slaps.
Talladega Nights.
Talladega Nights also great. Have you guys ever heard of He Got Game?
Yeah.
Is that Spike Lee?
That is Spike Lee.
It is about basketball.
Ray
Yeah.
Allen's
It's a-
in it.
It's a very I didn't even know
It's-
that at the time. It's
it's-
something that like my sister like would put on and I
Yeah.
would watch.
It's the next one on my list of Spike Lee movies to watch.
But I remember it was so interesting because he named his kid Jesus.
Really?
I think that's the
Ray Allen's character's name
no Denzel Washington's son in the movie.
is Ray Allen, like basketball player for the Celtics.
Then he does great.
Everybody has said he's one of the best like non-actor performances, and his name is
Maybe
Jesus in the movie.
maybe the Celtics are on to something. Nigga, KG, this
And Ray
guy.
Allen?
Sorry to just keep
Fuck
randomly
yeah.
dropping sports movies that I think about every
Okay.
so often, but Happy Gilmore.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
for
a
sure,
great
for
one.
sure, for sure.
My
Good for Happy Gilmore, my God.
I
Shooter
love-
McGavin, one of the greatest performances of all time.
Easy. Come on, who? Chris McDonald?
You
Come
eat shit for
on.
breakfast? No.
I've never seen somebody just such a proper villain.
So committed, too.
And then do like martial arts movies count, where like there's
Yes.
a fighting competition.
I feel the same way about dance now, where
put
it's
it in
like
its own category.
I would, but I also completely understand because I'm counting boxing.
yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
boxing feels more formal opposed to like. But then the Karate Kid, like that's a sports movie. to
Definitely a
me.
sports movie. There's training involved.
Yeah.
and
All
all
right, so
that.
yeah, I'd say count them like Enter the Dragon.
Well, that's something I want to talk about. Is there any other movies that anyone wanted to bring up before I go off on this little genre tangent here?
no. I mean, I'm cool. I said everything.
Nothing. If I think of something, I'll just interrupt you.
Okay. 'Cause
Rudy is also overrated.
I think in the
I just gotta say it.
being that we've just talked about musicals in the Cats episode,
okay,
these sports
and
movies,
in the New York episode.
true, but sports movies, at least the more generic ones, tend to fall in the same trappings as music biopics or musicals or whatever genre
Every
that's a
specific
bit more. Well, yeah, like when you come to the more general movies,
Mhm.
but sports movies cliches are even more cemented in audiences' heads, I think.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
why when a sports movie comes along that subverts that, people generally tend to respond
Mm.
higher.
I'd say so. That does make me curious why Color of Money like isn't regarded higher, because it feels like it's definitely leaned into like a sports cliche, but there's so much nuance and other things it's clearly focused on that I would assume it'd be held in a higher regard.
I think two things: the dated element and the ending.
Is it dated? And I guess the ending.
I definitely
Color
think
of
it's
Money?
no doubt
Yeah.
that it's dated, but
A
I
little
think that it definitely put me off a bit at the front. But I think
Wow.
as it went along and I got more invested in the characters and the story, I became like wrapped up in it to the point
Okay.
where that didn't bother me. But I mean, that also, like, I only watch like 30s, 40s, and 50s movies. Dated elements are like a part of me. So
Yeah. Okay.
An extremely goofy movie. I forgot about that. It's all about roller derby.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Super cool.
I don't. I forgot.
Have you
what
seen
the
Roll
second
Bounce?
one-
Well, they do like a triathlon. I don't know. Roll bounce is like, I don't know. It's more dance than like sport.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I like
Step Up?
have, but I was a child. Yeah, but that falls into the dance.
Yeah,
thing. Do we
it
count
does.
those or not?
8 Mile, does that count?
No.
Yes.
I mean, it follows the trajectory of a
Of a sports
film,
movie. That's
but
what I'm saying.
it's
Are there any other,
rapping.
real quick, any movies that follow trajectories of
Whiplash.
sports movies that aren't sports movies? Whiplash
Which is
definitely
what
one of them.
annoyed me when I rewatched it. I watched that over quarantine, and it has fallen from grace in my mind, and I feel very sad about it.
I believe it
'Cause I
because
was
that
the-
is definitely a very cliche movie
I
to
don't-
cite as a favorite now.
I don't know
for
if
most
you
people.
guys even remember, but I was a very loud champion of that movie, screaming it at everyone at the time.
I
Like,
remember Frank used
big
to work at Family
fan.
Video. I think we
Yeah.
brought that up, but I used to go visit Frank just like Dante and Randall at Clerks. Like we
honestly.
literally had that dynamic for a full year, I think. And
I eat something. Like
I'd just walk in at like 10 o'clock in the morning and stay until he left. That was literally a thing. But I remember there was one day specifically
was
when
always
somebody
slow
came in
during
and
the
was
day.
like, "What should I rent?" And if the movie conversation was open, I would generally join to recommend things to people as an outsider.
he would. This is a real thing.
But
I don't give a shit.
we talked about Whiplash to somebody at one point, and Frank and I had made a distinction about Whiplash that it's the kind of movie that nobody doesn't like.
Yeah.
Like there's not been anyone that we've recommended that movie to that came back like, what a pile of garbage.
It like bridged the people who come into Family Video.
Yeah.
Like, somehow.
As far as a general audience film, that is like a perfect movie between all walks of cinephile,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I just was a lot more let down and frustrated by it on this last watch, where just it felt so not developed or thoughtful.
I
like
mean,
used to think.
it's a second feature, right?
Right, and it felt like a first.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's because it does just fall into all the sport film cliches.
I
Like
think-
literally all of them beat for beat without much nuance.
I think the thing about Damien Chazelle that's made him take off is that technically he's a very efficient filmmaker. Because
Even
like we
that
said,
was
the
disappointing.
but like the editing and things like that in Whiplash
editing slaps.
are you can't deny how great that
yes,
is.
yes, it's
So,
brilliantly edited. Film.
He knows how to construct a movie. The problem is his stories just aren't that profound or interesting necessarily. I guess if you're looking in the lexicon of unique movies or original movies.
Okay, but I don't know. I don't want to just keep barreling down these rabbit holes, but fuck it. This
If
is
you've
the
listened to this
episode it is.
podcast before, you know the drill. If
Yeah.
this is your first
Hot.
time listening, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
Welcome.
Chronic Canon.
I'm actually kind of excited to rewatch La La Land. I think that might be better than Whiplash. I think there is genuinely more personal integration into it than Whiplash. Like there is more
Oh,
of
there has to be.
Damien Chazelle's true like artistic aspirations.
He tries to put it into Whiplash a little bit with
Yes.
the girl side plot.
and that's why I'm like, oh no, La La Land might be better than her.
I don't think it's going to be better than I remember because I think
I
there
think
are
it'll
other
be
the
better.
movies that have influenced it also do it the same. And that's
Yeah,
not to
that's true.
take away from the life experiences of Damien Chazelle or anything, but it is white people problems the movie. So like, I don't care.
But so is 99% of movies.
Yes, that's true. To clarify,
Especially
I
the
am
ones-
white. If anyone didn't figure that shit out
especially
yet.
the ones I like.
Me too.
Yeah, all of us.
That was Brandon?
Just a couple of white boys.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, we're getting back into the swing of recording.
Yeah.
After a long hibernation of quarantining, it was the second movie we watched that day after recording 2 episodes. The first movie being The Hustler, which we are going to talk about at least a little bit. Just that we didn't take notes, and it's a little hazy. Like, as much as I know I really love this and I'm excited to watch it again, I do not remember the order of things or a lot of specifics. And I think we're gonna go more the freewheeling, let's just talk about this in a general sense. So sorry to anyone who's expecting something different, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know if I've ever...
I just like laying it out there so there's no expectation, because usually we run down the plot,
I don't know if I've ever mentioned it specifically on mic before, but I feel like the way I digest movies, and even when I genuinely love or dislike them but can't remember all the specifics and mechanics of the plot or the narrative, whatever, I feel movies more than I understand them on a literal level, always, especially on a first go. So with something like this, I can definitely feel that love very intensely that I have for it, and definitely recognize all the things that it does in it that I find brilliant. But the plot, same with you. I definitely could not tell you exactly what happens beat for beat.
So we're just gonna roll with it this episode. And we did it as a double bill with The Hustler. Well,
Yes.
I guess technically a double bill. How did y'all feel about The Hustler?
This was my second time seeing The Hustler, and the first time I saw it, I was more in the camp that you guys ended up being in, which is not bad, but definitely not blown away.
I thought it was good.
Where I wouldn't say I was blown away this viewing either, but I think having a couple extra years under my belt since my last viewing and some deeper understanding of other movies that have done similar things, I liked it a little bit more this time. Bumped it up to a 4 out of 5.
I think I landed at a 3.5.
It didn't blow me away because you guys know how I feel about our shithead protagonist.
Yes.
Yes.
And Paul.
No, I don't think Fast
And-
Eddie's a shithead. I just think he's a cocky son of a bitch.
Yeah, which I've always personally, people that are
Hothead, hubris filled.
yeah, I don't know, cocky people, overly confident people, even if they end up being able to talk the talk.
Right.
It's just always bothered me. I just respect humility and people for some
Yes.
reason. I'm if you can do the thing and then you don't have to talk about how well you can do the thing, that's more impressive to me. So I've always been
course.
sort of standoffish to the big and bold and the loud.
But when you have your hothead protagonists, that's how you watch them fall, and then that's how they learn and grow.
Yeah. As I was saying, I have a hard time watching people that I don't like, but I think that the trajectory of the movie itself is pretty cool, because when I'm watching people I don't like and they kind of the world shits on them, it's all right, you're learning your lessons slowly but surely. And the final battle of that movie is just so goddamn intense and so cool. It's probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in the ending of a movie. Just his whole battle with not Big Julie. That
Minnesota Fat.
Minnesota
The
Fats.
2 Minnesota Fat sequences.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first one I think grabbed me.
That was
way
better.
more.
The
I think.
last one, his girl has already killed herself, and he's
Yeah.
he's just filled with this fire, and it's God damn it, you finally have passion for the right reason. I don't know, the whole movie it seems like he was doing
Okay.
everything for himself, and he finally played a game for her. Just probably should have done it earlier so she didn't kill herself.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
but-
say. I think at that, but see, I think
So
that's
you're
part of the reason
invested
why it's
more.
good. Is nihilistic in that way.
Yeah, it didn't
No
blow
matter
me
what,
away,
she's dead.
but
Doesn't matter if you win or lose, she's dead.
I
Yeah.
definitely don't think that it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, same. I thought it was good. Paul Newman's great in it, honestly.
Yeah.
His performance is pretty fucking stellar.
Yeah.
To come
Yeah.
back to Paul Newman, he's literally one of the best actors of all time.
Yeah, see, I'm a little more convinced after both of these, especially Color of Money. But Hustler is definitely, I think, and I would only call it an essential watch in relation to Color of Money, which
Oh yeah,
I mean, I almost do think is an essential watch, just if you want a fun fucking movie. But I do think you should watch The Hustler first. It provides a wealth of context that isn't necessary, but enriches the experience of its sequel.
and as a sports movie.
Yeah,
too.
that too. Both. Yeah, both are pretty good examples of subverting the cliches. Obviously, The Hustler came out before most of what we consider sport movie cliche, or the sport movie template was created.
Right.
Like
You and I
that.
were discussing earlier the idea that there's the possibility The Hustler was the first movie about pool.
Right.
Or where pool was around the plot.
Yeah, I have no. I can't. I mean, I don't
Me
know of
either.
any
If,
other ones.
if anyone knows, you can contact us at
Oh,
our
yeah.
Twitter, Chronic Canon, where you should be following us already if you're not, and
Yeah.
or our email, thechroniccanon@gmail.com.
Yeah,
Give us
hit
a shout.
up.
Comments on YouTube if you want. Chronic
Yeah.
Canon.
Run us down
We
a
also have a Facebook.
chronological lineage of pool movies. Chronological
Heyo.
lineage.
But the movie, it did feel long. The Hustler.
No, it definitely
It
drags.
definitely drags, and like I felt like as much as I liked the ideas behind all the scenes with Newman and Piper Laurie, like
And the wonderful George C. Scott.
oh yeah, George C. Scott's great in it too. But they like dragged out a bit, you know.
Yes.
So it felt like it had momentum problems. But then we already said she kills herself, and I feel like that made me appreciate the time we actually got to spend with them.
Yes.
Because it felt like there was more of a purpose to it.
They
Instead of
actually
these,
absorb us in the relationship
right
more than other movies would.
right instead of just like these
Skimming over it to
weirdly-
focus on the sports.
Yeah.
Because
So
that's something that a lot of sports movies have done.
Mhm.
But like skim over the emotional element just to keep the sports at the center.
they probably could have balanced it a little tighter.
I agree with you.
I mean,
What the?
oh yeah.
Do
So
we-
the best part of The Hustler.
When he gets his fucking thumbs broken.
And then goes to the door to his girlfriend. She's like, "What
Piper
happened?"
Laurie.
They beat me up and broke my thumbs.
It's
never seen a performance that good.
It's not a funny scene. I mean,
No.
but it's hilarious.
It's funny in
He fucking deserves it.
dated context.
Like, I knew that was about to happen
Okay.
when it was about to happen.
It also did not look like they were breaking his thumbs, you guys.
I also think it's kind of hilarious the level of stakes that are involved with pool. Like,
Yeah.
the Hustler sets up like people die over this
I
shit.
listen,
basically.
when you put money into anything, it can become high stakes.
That's very true.
I think Color of Money has more reasonable like stakes in
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
Like, and that is an improvement. But I don't think that Hustler is disingenuous.
I think if you want to see something that's if you're not a fan of black and white and you're looking for something a bit more concise to lead you into the Hustler that'll get you in the mindset, just go watch the Pool Shark episode of Drake and Josh and you'll get the same feel that you get out of the Hustler. The
Okay.
same level of hubris, the same level of, tragedy.
Literally.
Yeah.
No, that's
But-
not true. But still,
I mean, it.
It is like before we started watching The Hustler, I was like, wait a minute, like is this is kind of like the Drake and Josh
Yes,
episode,
that's
is it
like a
not?
spoof.
And then we talked about it.
yes.
But speaking of adding money can make anything a little bit crazy. Did you guys read the article? It came out probably a couple weeks ago about the nursery home fight club that happened.
No.
Shut up.
Dude, all these okay, so it was like two dudes and a girl were facilitating
Wait. Nursery or nursing?
nursing home.
Are we talking old people?
old people?
I wasn't sure. Are we talking old people or babies?
It was having all these old,
Either way, it's funny.
it was all these old people like trying to beat each other up because they wouldn't like remember the next day. All the people who facilitated it are in jail, but
All right,
like
so it's okay to laugh.
but it was I said that's crazy. Adding
It
money
is
to
crazy.
anything can make it if you're sitting alone, bored enough, like, dude, what if we just started betting on like whether Mr. Jenkins could beat up old man Forby? I don't know.
Write
So-
that movie.
So yes, color of money.
Well, the
Hustler.
No,
Yeah.
David Fincher should make that movie as his Irishman.
What the
Old Man
Fight
Fight
Club?
Club?
Yeah, the Old Man Fight Club.
It's Edward Norton in a nursing home.
And Brad Pitt.
Come here, swinging at the air.
And
He's re-
Meatloaf. Bring back Meatloaf.
He's relapsing because he has Alzheimer's now, so his mind's going. So Tyler Durden's back.
yes.
Finchy.
Wait,
Yeah.
Fincher.
Call us.
Oh,
Seriously.
fuck.
Oh fuck you! If you don't know what happens in Fight Club, it's your
It's fine.
fault.
I got spoiled for me
Yeah.
a while ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I
and
thought you
just
didn't
hope-
know. I'm so
just-
sorry.
No.
Kevin Spacey's Kaiser Soze.
Why would you do that? Why
In
would you-
real life and the movie.
Yeah, he's garbage in both.
Did
Let's
you see his COVID video?
No.
It went mine. He continues to blow minds to this day. He put out a
I
video
thought he was
saying
in
like
jail.
it's pretty it's pretty crazy that this whole COVID thing is going on. Like, I had my career ripped away from me in an instant, and my whole life changed in an instant, and now everybody else understands what that's like, basically.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
It's
Yikes.
wild. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Every one of those videos just makes me very upset.
There's
So,
a video that came out like last year of him just staring at the
God.
camera
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
And
Thanksgiving or the
speaking-
Christmas videos.
and speaking in code. Just
Frank
like,
Underwood. He
yeah,
was doing
you
his
thought I was-
character
you
from
thought
House
I-
of Cards.
you thought I was done, but I'm not done.
He's so
I'm
crazy.
on my way back. And it's like, dude,
so crazy.
You have no taste. You're like
Mm.
Louis. You just
Yeah.
don't know when to stop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
Fucked up.
Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Yes.
Planet of the Apes is
Han
Earth
Solo
all
was
along.
killed by Kylo Ren.
Yeah. What other spoilers can
Do
we
not
do?
spoil. Please don't spoil the last two.
All right.
Okay.
Please don't spoil the last two. And
Mm.
also, please stop spoiling movies.
Okay.
You're making a lot of people upset.
These are ones you should know.
Yes.
Oh, Bruce Willis is dead the whole time. Okay.
Okay.
Now we can move on.
Yes.
I didn't even know that until I saw it in high school when you
Nice.
guys did Kappa like movie night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot that
My
that was the movie.
Well,
my
we did
freshman
Sixth
year.
Sense and Insidious, and then we did
Yeah.
a Christmas one with Home Alone and It's a Wonderful Life.
Yep, I went to
Double bills in
I-
high school with a crowd that paid money. Cool.
paid like
Nice.
$2 for some like cheap ass nasty popcorn.
Yeah.
Tastes like styrofoam.
Hell
But
yeah.
I did get to see the Sixth Sense because of it, and I was blown away.
On a
I-
big screen.
It wasn't spoiled for me when I saw it, but I was also like 9.
Yeah, I was young.
I made it. I
Yeah,
made
no-
it 15 years.
Hey, I'll never forget that girl puking in that blanket.
Yes.
Scared the shit out of me.
So anyway, The Hustler, I would definitely say
He
watch.
like is flying through his little fort, and she's just like, you don't remember? Never
I,
mind.
I definitely remember.
I
Okay,
do.
okay, good. All right, now we're done with the Sixth Sense. Should we do Shyamalan? Just kidding.
Absolutely not.
Literally,
Please
I will
don't
never,
make me.
never. I can't. I literally.
If I've
can't.
said no to Wes Anderson, I say no to him too.
Frank, now that you've watched the entirety of Avatar: The Last Airbender, if you watch The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan, you'll kill yourself. Don't do it.
I won't. God, that just made me really sad just thinking about that. Like, now I get it. Now I understand. Oh, no.
Do you want to see Dev Patel shit all over your dreams?
Kinda, actually. Have you looked at him lately? He's
No.
Beautiful.
fucking hot.
Beautiful.
He looks good in Lion.
It's crazy, though.
Yeah.
It's just
Gorgeous,
like,
gorgeous
what's
man.
happening over there?
Okay.
Are
Anyway,
we talking
so
about
anyway.
a movie?
Another
Yeah,
gorgeous
yeah.
man, Paul Newman.
Honestly, better with age.
Well,
Very
no,
pretty.
see, that's another thing. Paul Newman, this is probably right around where his career sort of started to take off because he kind of filled the shoes of James Dean as far as the lexicon of iconography goes, people have said, I think. Because James Dean died and Paul Newman took the role in Somebody Up There Likes Me that James Dean was supposed to play.
Oh,
And then
didn't
that
know
ended
that.
up taking his career off at the start.
that
And
was
The
in
Hustlers
56?
towards the beginning, 61 or 2. When did it come out?
Which one?
Hustler.
Hustler was
61.
61.
61, yes. So, yeah, that's towards the beginning of like his height.
Yeah,
and
Somebody
then, I
Up
mean,
There
he
Likes
goes
Me.
up to the Cool Hand Luke, and then he gets into the Redford collaborations, and it's fucking legendary from there. But
Yeah.
The Hustler's pretty damn good around the horn. I would say watch it if you have the patience for it, and if you like those kinds of movies, especially if you are like Scorsese or me, and you like older movies, because it's good. It's really really good, and it plays very well with The Color of Money
Yes.
if you watch them back to back.
Again, they're not detrimental to one another, but I think
I
you'd
think
be
in a
doing
sense-
yourself a disservice.
In a sense, they are, in that I think it made The Color of Money a better movie.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Having that context made me enjoy the movie more.
100%.
And I think also made me appreciate Newman's performance that much more. And I think it's funny that this is always cited as a weaker performance from him. They gave him an Oscar because they felt like they needed to because he hadn't gotten one yet, because this performance wasn't that special. Though I think he's taking a part of himself and like letting go of this sort of cool element in his persona on screen. Like, there's not many movies that I've seen Paul Newman seem pathetic in.
I was about to say, though, The Verdict might have actually did that because that was 4 years earlier, the
Mhm.
Lumet film.
I saw The
he's-
Verdict.
He's,
Good movie.
you know, the alcoholic lawyer who's like
You're
down
right,
on his
yeah.
luck, and he has like that redemption arc in the same way. I just think like, but those two even I feel like pair together extremely
Yeah.
well. Like of these two different types of performances from Newman in the same like Venn diagram, almost like circle
Right.
of like this aged movie star.
Mm-hmm.
How do you reckon with your past self?
Yeah.
Like seeing it like where the themes in The Irishman already Scorsese tackling in the 80s.
Well, I was about to say that's where Scorsese comes in, because Scorsese takes on this project after Hours because he wants to make a movie that makes money more than anything else.
I read
Wants
that.
to
Color
prove
of money.
prove to the studio that not only can he make money, but he can also make a movie under budget and under schedule.
Right, and that people like.
Yes.
I think he was tired
Critically
of not
acclaimed.
being appreciated by public audiences
Yes.
too. Just
Mhm.
like, why don't people like my movies?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that there was a point where Scorsese really wasn't in good graces with a general audience.
Yeah.
For a
After
while.
already making Taxi Driver and Raging Bull.
I think
Get
those
ready
were-
for The Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah. This
we'll,
is where
we'll have a lot to talk
his
about.
most provocative movie,
Yeah.
at least in real time.
Yes. And I
They're
think
like-
probably to this day still is, just given the nature of the movie.
Yeah, if you're talking about like actually having cultural impact
Yeah.
because he made it,
Yeah.
Jesus fucks.
some shit. Jesus
Yeah.
fucks.
I think that
So I
might even
hear.
be the movie that truly made him a household name, simply
In a
because
way.
nobody could forget it.
And then
after
you
that.
follow up with Goodfellas as his like triumphant.
How do you do
like,
that? How do you?
magnum opus
We'll get
in a
there.
way.
We'll get there.
Color of Money, though, I think feels like his first film made for a wide audience, honestly, up to this point. In a way,
Yes.
as I'm not saying like a lot of those movies that we've watched so far, I would recommend to people, like a general audience. Like you could definitely get into this, or like, it's not like a hard like Taxi Driver. If
I
it's
know a
somebody's,
smaller
like,
populace of people that would want to be sad and depressed watching a movie than exhilarated and excited
Sure.
in a positive way.
And,
Whereas I don't think that the color, because I think that might be part of the reason why this movie doesn't have as much success, like you asked earlier, Frank, why
Mhm.
this movie isn't as well regarded, because of the fact that it is a bit downtrodden. It's not really a like fun movie all the time, especially toward the latter half.
Mhm.
Once Tom Cruise exits, kind of, it becomes a very somber movie.
Well, I think that's only for like actually a little bit of time.
Yeah.
That Cruz is like out of the picture.
I don't know. I think that's part of the reason why I thought Newman was so good, because I just really felt bad for Fast Eddie the
Yeah.
whole movie.
Honestly, yeah.
I really felt bad. And I think this is the first occasion in which I've actually felt bad for a Scorsese protagonist in a real empathetic way.
I didn't start feeling bad for him until like the halfway point when I noticed that when I started noticing
When he's getting played, bro.
when I
Sucks.
started noticing the direction the movie, because when it starts out, I remember saying this out loud to you guys at one point. I was like, I don't know, man. I think that whether or not I like this movie is gonna fall on whether Scorsese is saying that you need to adapt to the new ways and move on, or if Paul Newman's character is there to enforce like, yo, if you don't stick to these traditional ways, you're gonna fuck up.
Yeah.
So for like the first like half of that movie, I was wondering where he was gonna go with that. You know.
Yeah.
Now, another nice point to bring up. Another reason Scorsese made this movie, at least in my head, I don't know if he's been cited as saying this or not, but because of his aforementioned love of classic movies, being associated directly with one of those films that definitely had some sort of influence on his style in some way.
Mhm.
Because the way The Color of Money works is definitely more of a bombastic style, like we've mentioned he's sort of dipping his toes into with like After Hours, and Michael Ballhaus being the new addition behind the camera.
Yeah. He
Added
shot
an
Color
energy.
of Money too.
Yes, he's a cinematographer all the way through a certain movie, right?
I feel like there's like one or two he randomly.
Couple
skipped.
outliers. Take a look and then come back once you have the information. But regardless, this is not something I've read everywhere. I've seen a couple references to it, but having just watched it recently and talked about it briefly on the podcast in a previous episode, it's a weird sort of update on Red River, Howard Hawks' Western. The dichotomy of the characters, and even sort of in the meta elements behind the making of the movie. Like Red River was Montgomery Clift's first movie.
Mhm.
And Montgomery Clift's character in the movie plays John Wayne, his name's Tom Dunson in the movie. He plays his sort of adopted son that he picks up along his journey and then ends up raising and training, and he becomes sort of his right hand in his cattle running business or whatever. Montgomery Clift was a stage actor and a very successful one at the time, but this was his first big movie. And similar to Tom Cruise, who had just been in Top Gun, but at the time that they made The Color of Money, Top Gun at least hadn't been released yet. So he wasn't that big
Well,
at the time.
Risky Business was a few years
That
before.
yes, that was his big break into like the stardom roles,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
But he still wasn't all that well known at the time.
Right.
And this was sort of supposed to be a semi-star making turn for him, I would suppose. But Montgomery Clift's character and John Wayne's characters, very similarly to this, represent the new wave and the old wave clashing. And there becomes a point where, oddly enough, in Red River, John Wayne becomes the antagonist, though I think similar to Paul Newman, even earlier in Wayne's career, too, he ends up sort of deconstructing the macho elements of John Wayne's persona and becoming a pretty pathetic and loathsome character, which is weird to see for John Wayne at that time specifically. But even Paul Newman doing a similar thing in this movie, but different between the two of them. Newman is the protagonist in this case, and Clift is the protagonist in Red River.
Right. I
So-
like the opposite.
Right. And I don't think that The Color of Money is making a defense case for the old being better than the new by any stretch, but Tom Cruise is definitely seen as the villain like in the movie. So if you're coming at it with that metaphorical element, Scorsese is in a way condemning the new, but I think in the stylistic elements and the way he progresses the narrative of something like The Hustler, he's embracing the new wave that's
Mhm.
moving forward.
Well, he's a part of it.
Yes.
I mean,
He's sort of stuck in the periphery of both.
Mhm.
Like he's right on the edge.
I don't think Tom Cruise is like actually an antagonist though. Like if you had to say somebody, it's him.
Right.
But I think that's why he's not just saying the old is better, because he shows Cruise like making good points. Like there's that whole monologue that Cruise does about Nine Ball. Like
Yes.
if everybody's doing it, you gotta just do it and be the best at it.
Yes.
And he's being all like smarmy and smarmy,
It doesn't matter.
whatever, and like whatever, and a hot shot. And he never does anything like bad. He fucks off the pool game and like loses on purpose, but like he's doing that more for his own gain, learning from Eddie, than he is to fuck over Eddie. Because I don't think he knows that like Eddie's like whole heart is in this tournament.
You
because
don't-
he's off on his own journey.
You don't
he
think
literally learned from Eddie and is doing what he taught him.
you don't think there's the possibility that Tom Cruise was playing him from the very beginning?
No,
I really don't think so.
Okay.
I
That's
think
not the
that-
vibe I got from the movie.
I think that for at least half the movie, Tom Cruise is like a student.
yeah.
Okay.
Who eventually,
Genuinely.
I don't know.
I
it
think he
reminds
might be
me-
taking lessons from him, but I definitely think he's got one eye open, like in that metaphorical sense, right?
It reminded me
Yeah.
of like when an older person is trying to teach you how to like do something on a computer that you haven't necessarily done before,
Yeah.
and they're teaching you like the very, very, very basic ways, and
Yeah.
then you do it on your own for maybe like a session or two,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can just use all of these shortcuts that
Right.
I know.
That's fair. And if anything, actually, Newman's triumph at the end is because he adapted.
Yes.
He didn't stick with the
Well,
old ways.
that
he's
is what I was-
maybe triumph, maybe not.
That
sure.
is what I was getting at.
But his triumph of he's at least playing.
Yes.
He's
Mhm.
playing
He's back.
nine ball.
He's back, baby.
He's in a tournament. He's up against Vincent, and he's at least going to give him a fight.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
not out of the game because he learns to
Same with
adapt.
Minnesota Fats. He never
Right.
wins.
If
Did I see win at the end? He wins
Oh,
at the
he
end of the Hustler.
beats the fuck out of Minnesota.
but it
Fats
doesn't
at the
matter.
end.
That's what's
that-
that's a good movie.
It is a
Anyway.
good, they're a good. They're both good movies, but it's not. So I don't think there's any hint of like hold on to the old ways. I think it's how the old ways have to develop with the new. If you want to stay relevant, if you want to stay on top, if
Yes.
you want to be a part of the machine that you're a part of,
Or you can just keel over and die.
right?
Yeah.
Which is like what Fast Eddie almost does, but then gets his second wind
Yes.
and learns.
Realizes what it takes, remembers what it took back then.
They
And I-
teach each other.
And I think it's interesting that Scorsese normally works with other writers' material in the first place, but this really feels like it's a character outside of the world of the normal protagonists of Scorsese's movies, though simultaneously it makes perfect sense
Yeah.
in the lineage of all these characters, including Travis Bickle, including Jake LaMotta, all of them. You can see where these people run a lineage,
Yeah, I guess if I think
especially in the hubristic element.
Newman fits more in like the Irishman
Yep.
type
Yeah.
era, but then
And we're
Cruise
seeing-
is more like a Johnny Boy.
We're seeing his consistent theme of betrayal once again and all that stuff. Because I'll tell you what, man, when you find out Cruz is playing him, it hurt.
It did.
Like it really did.
I was
Because I just liked
surprised.
I loved the dynamic of those two actors together because I love Tom Cruise and I
I-
love Paul Newman.
I was happy. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't want if Newman won, to me that was like saying that he was right and that you should not.
Oh, I don't
you should be
think that
sticking to the
it was a
classics.
bad decision. I just think
No.
it was like a really well earned way to do it in the movie, I guess, to split
I
that
was
relationship.
I was definitely
It hit.
like shocked and was like, oh shit, and I felt Newman's pain.
That's a
because
good movie.
he was-
it can trick you.
He was so happy. That little moment where he walks outside the door and he looks around and goes, yes.
like arm
That's-
pump and everything.
That is one of my favorite Paul Newman moments.
I,
in
I
any
we
so
literally
small.
okay, but we literally rewound because I was like, guys, one more time, and it was like his little pump, and it was just so much joy, and Tom Cruise rips it away like
All of
a
it.
minute.
It is really
Later.
sad.
You
Really
know
sad.
Scorsese was cracking up behind
Powerful.
the camera
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
Newman do that.
How could
God,
you not?
How fucking happy do you think Scorsese was to be working with Paul Newman?
Probably a ton. It seems this
How
movie.
easy do you think it would be to work? Like, imagine like casting Paul Newman in your movie. Just like, yeah, just fucking go. Like, whatever.
I'll just film you.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? I don't know. Something.
Yeah.
This is your movie, man.
He might be another one who's not bad in any movie. I don't
can't
know.
say as
I haven't.
confidently.
Yeah, I've not seen enough of his canon to be able to say confidently. So if he does have any bad performances, let us know at Twitter or email.
Yes,
So.
please. I definitely think that this is a necessary movie in Scorsese's lineage, even though it is a clear divergence from everything before, in that it feels like him almost recalibrating,
Yes.
and proving he can do it almost.
Yeah.
He is both Tom Cruise and Paul Newman in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
And this feels like him reckoning with, like, how do I move forward? Like,
Yeah.
I'm almost stuck. I mean, After Hours did well, but it wasn't like anything to write home about. I thought about his relationship with Michael Powell is not an accident in this, like, feeling of Color of Money. I feel like it's slightly reflected within the relationship between Cruise and Newman. But then Scorsese is also becoming somewhat of a veteran at that point. Like, has made 10 movies, has been around for 20 years.
He's won a Palme d'Or.
20 years at this point?
That's the crazy part. Who's that knocking at my door? 67?
67, so
This
it's
is 86.
19,
Yeah.
19 years.
Isn't that nuts?
That is crazy. We've already spanned 20 years of his
the
filmography.
like weirdness to that is that there's a 5-year gap between the first and second film.
Yes. And I think the only movie that is cemented as a bona fide classic by this point in time is Raging Bull.
Right. And Taxi Driver almost
Yes.
has its following. But he's also not a household enough name where he's making every passing project he wants like he is now. He earns that maybe here and then following up with Temptation and then Goodfellas.
Well, yeah, because he's been trying to make Temptation since Raging Bull.
To be
he
honest,
was going to make it next, and then De Niro
Right.
was like, please let me do
a
King of
comedy.
comedy because he wanted De Niro for Jesus first.
Right.
And then he got Willem. But we'll
Eventually.
get to that.
But this starts like the 3-step process of how we got the Scorsese we have today. Without Color of Money, this movie would have been lost. It had a budget. This seems like a good time at the time of $10 million, which today is $23.3 million, and it made $52.3 million, which today is $122.3.
$100 million profit.
Yes, sir. It was a hit. People loved it. It definitely plays into all of Tom Cruise's
Got another Best
sensibilities,
Actor Oscar under Scorsese's canon belt.
which I didn't know that Newman won, first of all, for this, and I also didn't know when you even told me that tidbit that it was for lead actor.
Also, kind of funny and ironic given the history of Fast Eddie, the character.
Mhm.
Newman had never won an Oscar and been nominated like a lot up to that point. And every single year he'd go to the Oscars and lose. And this year he was like, you know what? I'm not going to go because I'm just going to lose, and there's no point in sitting there and losing. And of course he wins.
Of course, like literally, of course.
Like art imitating life.
Just like Eminem when he won his first Grammy. Wasn't there. He was at home, sleep
Yep.
on the couch with his daughter.
He lost at the Globes. To who?
Yeah, but who cares about the Globes?
No, but I mean, like,
People.
why he would believe he wasn't going to do it or wasn't going to win,
Yeah.
He lost to Bob Hoskins in Mona Lisa.
Ah, yes.
Where the fuck that is.
Mona Lisa's the guy who made the Crying Game.
Uh,
Neil Jordan.
yeah. Okay. So, I mean, just more so to the point of like, I'm going to stay home. Like, I don't care. And then he wins. And he deserves it, dude.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I know I said this last week where I was like, I feel like Griffin Dunn is up there with like a lot of even De Niro's best. Now I'm sitting here like, is Paul Newman the best performance in a Sez movie so far?
No.
Like,
No. I think De Niro in King of Comedy and
Bro.
Raging Bull are definitely better.
I
than
don't know.
this.
The
Griffin Dunn?
things that Newman had made me feel during this movie are like literally indescribable.
True.
And it just felt like something that was so particular to him
Yes.
and the things he was doing.
I think that's because Newman hasn't had the chance to wear off on you like De Niro does.
Newman's a magical
4 movies
performer.
in a row.
I want to see Color of Money again
Sure.
because I think on rewatch it's going to be even better for
Yeah,
me.
Same.
Especially
Knowing how it ends, yeah.
well, because again, I think the first time I watch a movie, like I said, I feel it. The second time, I get it. That's
I will
the whole
say
thing
I'm
that
really
excited for.
glad that we did watch Hustler before we watched it because it didn't make it like just that. It felt like I had already like kind of seen it before while watching it this time. So
Yeah,
I understood.
That's fair.
I understood.
And I wonder if that means
Makes
I
the-
will enjoy Newman's performance a little less if I don't also rewatch Hustler when I eventually rewatch this. Because I think having that like emotional baggage on the brain, I'm assigning that immediately to the character. So now I'm inferencing things he's doing subtly as like these big emotional moments because I understand
Yes.
completely what
Yes.
he's like what is happening.
Yeah.
All the scenes with Janelle, played by Helen Shaver, his girlfriend in the movie, felt like the best things I've ever seen. It felt like when I was randomly enamored during Carlito's Way with the relationship, but to, like all those
yes.
scenes were like my favorite scenes
The
for
rain and the
whatever
roof.
reason. So perfect.
The dance.
But that's how I felt during all of their scenes when they were just on the phone with each other. She was just like missing him, and he's like, "I miss you too." My heart, I'm just getting, it's like making me warm. It's just such a pleasant.
That's a good movie for
thing.
you.
And it feels very real. Like
Yeah.
all the emotions felt very real, where I didn't feel like I was even watching a good performance.
Yeah.
I was watching this human being.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually the first time I felt that in any Scorsese movie so
Yeah.
far.
Okay.
That's the different, like, no matter what, I still have this, like, look at these magnetic
Yeah.
or towering or calculated performances.
Yeah.
Even Griffin Dunn, I'm like, he's just fucking hilarious.
When you really put it in the perspective of Scorsese, this movie soars even higher in my mind simply
Yeah.
because of the fact that this is really just a big old flex on his part.
It
where he's
is.
like, oh, you fuckers think all I do is make personal bullshit and artsy-fartsy, like depressing, sad, violent, controversial crap. Let me just show you that I am capable of making the movie that you all have wanted this whole time,
Right.
and still manage to make it personal and fit into the lineage of my
Yes.
entire career and all those same adjectives I just used, and it works.
It's
$100
a
million
flex.
profit.
Yeah.
It is. That's all this. It is a 2-hour
That's
flex.
Scorsese raising them big old eyebrows right at the world.
And it's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the
No.
means. Like,
No.
obviously.
Like I do want to bring that up now that we've talked about it a little bit. The dated elements at the front of it, I mean, like it's present throughout. I think
don't even
remember
remember.
Robbie
Oh, the
Robertson's
It's
score.
terrible. You're
It's
right.
not terrible.
It's kind of terrible.
It's just ridiculous.
dun, dun,
Dun, dun. That's fucking funny. But
dun,
regardless,
dun.
just listen to the title theme for The Color of Money and you'll know what we're talking
It's
about immediately.
funny.
It is in the movie. But the music he uses, the needle drops
The
in this
needle
movie.
drops
This
are
is like Scorsese going ham on the needle drops for the first time, really.
And-
Since Mean Streets, I think that was the heaviest
Yeah.
amount of music that he's really used.
Honestly, yeah. And then Goodfellas, that's when we're going cocaine
Yeah.
levels of needle drop.
Both literally and
We're watching
figuratively.
that today.
Yes, we're watching Goodfellas today. That's so exciting.
Gotta watch the Jesus movie first.
It'll be good.
Yeah, it will. It's good.
Let's bear down our souls.
I gave it a 5 when I saw it years ago. Last Temptation of Christ, that is. It's Willem fucking Dafoe playing Jesus Christ. What
I'm
more
hyped.
do you want?
I'm hyped.
Harvey
Goblin.
Keitel is Judas.
What?
Yeah,
Ole,
All right.
ole, ole, ole,
Keitel's
ole.
back. Sting is in it,
Oh.
I think.
Bow.
It's some musician. I can't
David
remember.
Bowie's
Oh wait, no.
Pontius
Peter
Pilate.
Gabriel does the score.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. I'm actually kind of hyped.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm definitely hyped.
I'm kind of hyped. Anyway,
I'm not.
I don't remember what you were talking
Well,
about. I just got
what we were
excited
talking about is
about
just
the
like this.
says.
This is. I think that's something that like on the pod, I feel like we forget about sometimes when we do the plot, and that's why I'm kind of glad we talked about it this way because like this is all about the says here, and like the says is really doing.
This is all about the Newman.
But I mean, in the
It's
movie
both.
context and the narrative and all that, and especially when you're just looking at it like a movie. But when you're thinking about it in the history of Scorsese's
Yes.
career, this
Okay.
is so much more important than people give it credit for.
I think so too.
It's kind of crazy. And it's even, like we said, it's the spin on the sports movie that has not been really done or outdone since, kind of.
Yeah, kinda. And I think that it like stylistically is very loud and very Scorsese, and the editing is fucking on point.
Thelma,
and Thelma. And I think
as
like
always.
it's definitely more visually impressive than The Hustler, bar none. But I also do think that like maybe the opening game with Minnesota Fats is like better than anything in Color of Money. Like that as an isolated
As a
like
piece of filmmaking.
yeah, because that's like 30 minutes long.
It's
and it's just like
it's tense. It's fucking riveting.
I just couldn't believe it kept going.
and Newman's performance, I remember comparing it to that scene in Cool Hand Luke where he eats all the eggs.
Absolutely.
The commitment from Paul Newman. Like, I feel like he's been playing pool for 48 hours or however long it is by the time he's done. Like, it literally looks like he has.
I forgot. We never even mentioned that everybody's doing their own pool stuff. Even
That's
Tom Cruise.
insane.
Just,
It's
like, cool.
insane.
Do you guys play pool ever?
I mean, I'm definitely better at pool than, like, I would expect myself to be, given that I'm not that
Okay.
into sports and I don't really play all that often. But my family had a pool table for most of my life, so casually I'd play with people and, like, by myself if I was bored sometimes. So I'm okay. but
Yeah.
it's fun. I actually like playing pool.
Brandon.
I've only played like a handful of times. I never
Okay.
like had like a pool table around. I remember one time like definitely double digits, but like pre-teen. So probably like 11 or 12, going over like my mom's friend's house for like a little house party, and like all the adults were downstairs drinking and like shooting pool, and I was standing there and just like, the fuck is this? This is really odd. And then like just like them letting me like shoot a couple balls and being like, what the fuck? And then I remember specifically, and this is like a while ago, because like I used to go over Jesse's house when he had the pool table, and like I don't think I ever really like shot pool over there. But then there was a time where Jesse relocated to the different location, and they had the pool table in the basement. And I remember we were all down there and we were drinking, and Frank saw me shooting the pool, because it was me versus like Michael, I think, because you and Michael had just gone.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't feel like playing anymore. Brandon, Michael, you go. So we were playing and we were drinking. And then at one point, Frank just looked over at me and saw the way that I was holding the cue, and he freaked out. He goes, what the fuck is your problem? He goes, dude, you're like too old to be doing this. He's like, go like this. Like, you'll just improve your game. And like he showed me like a different, I forgot by now, just so
Yeah.
you know. You're
That's
probably
okay.
disappointed.
No,
But
no, I'm okay with it.
you showed me how to like hold it and how to get like a more accurate, like real shot. And then I actually watched you and Michael play, because you both like know how to fucking, use the pool cue.
Uh-huh.
And it's intense stuff. And also watching Hustler and Color Money made me appreciate pool a whole lot more. That shit is intricate.
I miss being able to go, honestly. I haven't in a while, but I feel like in the last couple of years I've actually played pool quite a few times, just going to pool halls. with, like, a
Really?
pal.
That's fun.
Shout out Birdman. We definitely have done
that's
that
right.
a few times. And I'd like to go when this quarantine business is done.
That
Dude,
would
let's
definitely
do
be a
it.
fun activity.
But I will
Teach me how
say,
to pool.
okay, for the amount of times I've played pool in my life, I should be better.
and I
will
don't
say
play the
that.
proper rules either. Like I don't call
Oh,
my
I
shots
do.
and shit.
Yeah, I can.
Well, you
Makes
don't.
it
You.
hard.
I don't know. I feel like
That's proper pool.
I
Yeah.
like playing where you only have to call your 8-ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I
That's
do it.
casual pool. That's how most people just will play.
Mhm.
And I prefer that, absolutely. And it's something like in my brain, it's like, I know what to do. I just a lot of the time can't physically do it. And like one time I was up north with like my uncle, and then he just like started, like my 60 to 70-year-old great uncle, actually. It was just like, yeah, this is what you got to do. And just like sank the whole table. And I was like, what's happening? And then he played my other great uncle, and he did the same thing. And I was like, why am I around pool sharks? They're like, yeah, we used to basically do this, like hustle people. They had a bar. They were just like, yeah, we fuck around with people all the time. They tell crazy stories. Sometimes I hear things. I'm just like, this is real? This is my family? Okay.
Miss Julie's.
Like, let's teach me.
Nice.
I'll go hustle people. Just kidding. I won't. Maybe I will. Would
Didn't
I?
you learn from Drake and Josh as a child? You don't
Yes.
hustle.
I know.
What would be like the new hustle today?
In pool specifically or something else?
I don't know. Like, what is there out there that we could use?
Smash
like pool?
tournaments.
Well, I'm really bad.
You lose immediately.
I mean, video
and then you say
gaming.
after, and you say $20 a game.
Come on.
Video gaming, yeah, that
Yeah.
probably is.
The
The
way
new
to hustle
pool
people?
hustle.
I guarantee you there are still like hustlers and pool halls, like
Oh, yeah,
all
there has
to
across
be.
the land.
There has to
I don't
be.
think we're in the right state to be like
Yeah.
viewing that though. That's
I
all.
think we need to be in more factory towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Random,
I
guess
feel like
we
if you
have
went
a
to
lot of
Vegas,
factory.
random
Oh, yeah.
factoid that we forgot to mention. This is another one of the cases in which the lead star of the movie, in this case Paul Newman, obviously, had more control over the movie at the start than like Scorsese would have. Because
Just like-
Scorsese was brought in.
Alice doesn't live here anymore.
Yeah, like Ellen Burstyn brought in Scorsese. Same with Paul Newman. He brought in Scorsese as well.
Nice. Did
Now,
he,
the
did he
reason-
did he cite why?
He cited because he loved Raging Bull and thought that his direction in that movie would like prove that he could direct this, but also the fact that Jake LaMotta, the real guy, stars briefly in The Hustler
Yeah.
as a bartender
I
and
forgot
even
about
has
that.
some dialogue. And when you see him, it's like, holy, that really is Jake LaMotta, because he looks like late period De Niro at the end of Raging Bull. So it's like, ooh, whoa, that's crazy. So just a weird little coincidence that ties into The Color of Money, Scorsese, and Raging Bull.
I wonder if that's why he agreed to do it.
That's probably
Like,
part of the
that
reason.
was the final straw. Like LaMotta was in Hustler. I'll do it. Is there anything else we want to talk about with Color of Money specifically? Like I feel like my
I think I can be blunt.
I don't know. I don't know if we gave Tom Cruise justice,
Well-
nor the girl that he was with.
that's what I was about to bring
Okay.
up. Mary Elizabeth Mastra and Mastra
Don't even.
Antonio.
Jesus.
Mastrantonio. That's my best guess.
Okay.
Plays
Master Antonio.
Carmen, his girlfriend in the movie. I think she's probably the one element that holds this back from being like a 5-star movie in my eyes, because it feels very like haphazardly dealt with. Her like role in the film as a whole. I think obviously Newman and Cruise are the focus. We're always going to be the focus and are significantly enrapturing enough to make it fine in the grand scheme. But I probably, if she was a little more like relevant to anything,
Like fleshed out too. The
not
one
even
thing that I was
fleshed
about
out,
to say,
like even her bits like seem to not be needed.
I
It was
just
like
had
you
a-
don't need to be hitting on the Newman for him to be like, we're doing a scam. It's like, yeah, we know you could have skipped this. Like, make her a real character, maybe,
Yeah.
or don't have her.
I just had a thought that it could just be like Newman being like, I wish that was what Piper Laurie was to him.
Yeah, okay.
Like looking at it like, wow, you have it even better than I do. You get the girl and the game.
Okay,
I had to choose.
you instantly made that better for me.
Yeah,
But
I didn't even
it's
I didn't think about it like that. But also,
That's a fresh thought. Too.
I think that
good one.
there's a lot with her that just like isn't fleshed out enough for me. Like
no,
the
I'm with
fact,
it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that might have been like maybe the
Yeah,
purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know.
she's with Vincent only because like he caught her, like he didn't catch her breaking into his house, but like she was there robbing him or
Yeah,
something, and
yeah.
like that's not really played on whether or not she's actually like playing Vincent or like not. And maybe that's a part of it. Maybe that's like a thing in the movie.
I think that's a vibe of the whole movie. Everybody's playing everybody, which is the highlighted in the awesome. I'm glad we didn't get blunt yet. The Forrest Whitaker scene.
Well,
is
I wanted to
maybe, like,
I wanted
the
to bring that
best
up as
scene
in
in the
like
movie.
that is the scene that sold me on Newman's performance
Yeah,
being
that
one
too.
of the best he's ever done.
Forrest
because
Whitaker
of
also
good-
walks in the movie and steals the screen for
I
like
know.
5 minutes.
He's
I was like, what
that
the
scene
fuck?
because I brought up the fact that when you lose Cruise as a partner, it hurts in the
Yeah.
movie. I think it actually hurt worse when you find out it's Forrest Whitaker playing.
No, because
it felt
I-
like Knights of Cabiria almost. That same thing towards the end of that movie, where it was that same moment where it's like it seemed like he finally like met somebody in the movie who may have actually like legitimately looked up to him in a weird way.
No, I didn't see him as like looking up to him, but just like
He played him good.
He met somebody like for the first time. Like he met somebody younger that he felt like he could actually resonate with.
Yes,
Like he's sitting there shooting the shit, talking pool, and like
the scene is
This-
very wholesome.
this guy isn't like combating everything he says like Vincent.
They're just
Yes,
having a
yeah.
good time.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like genuinely having fun, and like you haven't seen him do that. And if you have the idea of the hustler already in your head, you know that he hasn't been able to play pool for a while because of the end of that movie.
Right.
So like you're right there with him, where you're like, dude, this is so great.
And
then
then he
The
just gets
fact that
schooled.
Vincent and Carmen are standing right there
And they
watching.
seem to be, I don't see. That's why I want to watch it again. I think if we watch it again, we might see that they were onto it beforehand. Like they probably knew what was going on and didn't want to say anything.
But he's
Like they felt bad
yeah. I'm curious to look back too. I'm not sure.
because
it
they're
just-
standing there and it's like it's half like them smiling, but then at some point they're like, ooh.
Well, because at some point it becomes apparent, but then that's part of the hustle. You can't stop. You're like, no,
No.
that's a fluke. I'm gonna win,
Yep.
and you keep going. You keep like a casino. You hit once on a slot machine, but you don't cash
Because
out.
you only hustle hustlers, and you guys all think this. They
Right.
all think the same.
right, and then that's how Newman realizes he has the arrogance of I'm not as sharp as I thought. I fell for it. Who am I to say anything about any of this? Like
It was
I
truly
got
like
played.
that was his first like, oh fuck, like I'm not. Oh no, that was when he split it up.
Yeah.
That's when he
That's
broke
when he
off
said, I'm done.
everything.
He
Yeah.
said, I'm not good enough anymore. Proof. I got 100% played without any tinge. And it's just like, just Forrest Whitaker's so good in that
Dude,
scene. Like,
Comes in with a nice smile and he
That
plays being
smile.
friendly so well. And then when he gets caught, you think they're gonna get like all aggressive and stuff, but like
he's still smiling.
he plays it so well. He's just like, hey man, like I don't mean anything by it. When I lost, I paid up, but it is what it is. If
But
you want to be like
It
that,
is what it is.
And he has like a tone about
he has
it.
a tone. He's
He
like
has-
got the Tom Cruise snarkiness.
He's like,
Yeah.
all right, man, like I paid, but hey, it is what it is. Like he's
Yeah.
saying, like, yo, you can walk away, but just know that like fucking got your ass.
Yeah.
Which makes Paul Newman be like, fucking run it back, because he gets real pissed and they go at it, but it doesn't end well. So
No.
Forrest Whitaker comes in and he kills it.
And
I didn't even know he was gonna be in it. It took me by
Me
surprise.
neither. Had no idea. It was like, what
Mhm.
the fuck? And that scene is important to the whole narrative we've been really expounding on, and definitely like a highlight of Newman's performance. Like he really they both sell that. Yeah, what a good fucking movie.
That's what I'm saying. It's really underrated.
Now I'm good.
Okay,
All right, we can be blunt.
let's be
Oh,
blunt.
Tom Cruise is great. That I forgot.
Yeah.
There, I was like,
I
wait, there
mean,
was one
I
more
don't
thing.
think he's of note particularly, especially in the other roles he's had later in his
Sure,
career.
he
But
definitely he has
I
less
just-
to do here.
I just like I don't know. He felt more he felt genuine, and
One
it felt
thing-
he felt like a clear opposite to not only like Paul Newman in this movie, but Paul Newman in The Hustler. Like truly like a very good depiction of like the new wave of whatever wave you're presenting.
We didn't talk about the echoes between the two. That now Tom Cruise is Paul Newman in The Hustler, and then Paul Newman has become the George C. Scott that was in The Hustler.
Yeah,
And then
Oh,
it
yeah.
is like this almost like echoing it, but obviously it goes better in Color of Money for everyone.
yeah,
And I think it's a good showcase for Cruise only in his like exuberance of charisma and energy, where he's always at like this high level. It's not like a complicated performance, and I wouldn't say it's a best showcase of him as an actor, but as a presence, I think he's very like undeniable here.
sure. I think
Which like I feel like he's not even in the movie that much, but he definitely leaves his mark.
yeah, I think that's just more personally. I'm so used to like the older Tom Cruise,
Mhm.
like Tropic Thunder. I saw he was in Oblivion for some reason. I saw the what's the movie where he keeps dying over and over
I
again?
just watched
Edge of Tomorrow.
yesterday.
Edge of Tomorrow. Saw that in theaters. So like I'm very used to like this older like reserved action star. So seeing him
Yeah.
being like this,
I've
young,
never seen
like,
Reserve
it was
from
like
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's
Just saying.
poor word choice.
It's like
think I
it's
knew
like
what
seeing
you
De
meant.
Niro be Johnny Boy. Kind of like how you said he's your Johnny Boy earlier. It's just like it's interesting to see you be this young and spry, energetic character without the star power that you carry in the future.
Yes.
I've seen him in a few movies where he's got that same wild, energetic.
There's an interview with Oprah where he's just like that.
I was gonna say I've seen a few too, but I still think this would be one of the highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think Tom Cruise is weirdly like the actor I've seen like the most, other than Bruce Willis.
Weird.
Like,
I mean,
Weird
it
that
makes
those-
sense. He's literally one of the biggest stars
Yeah.
in the world.
I've
So
seen,
Yeah.
I've seen almost 30 Tom Cruise movies, and I've seen over 30 Bruce Willis movies.
isn't it funny that Tom Cruise can hustle the shit out of Paul Newman, but Scientology can hustle the shit out of Tom Cruise?
Hey,
No, he's winning. When you get to the top, you
Yeah,
are.
I mean, that's
honestly,
true. He is
winning.
winning.
dude, if somebody was like, you can have the level of what we do for Tom Cruise, and all you have to do is say you're a part of this religion,
I'm in.
I'm in.
As long
Give
as
me
I don't
the
have to.
car.
I don't.
What?
If I
Vroom,
don't have to
vroom.
be like at the
I think
bottom.
they're on the phone. I think they're calling now.
That'd be awesome. Why would they do that though?
It's
I'm
John
not anything
Travolta
for
too,
it.
right?
Yeah, and Will Smith. And
A lot of
Whoa,
people. Wait,
wait,
not Will
what?
Smith.
Not Will
Not Will
Smith.
Smith.
No,
Are you sure?
I don't
What's
think
your
so.
problem?
Beck?
Beck is Elizabeth
Are
Moss.
you sure? Oh yeah, Elizabeth Moss. All right, sure.
Leah Remini was, and now
Will
she's like
Smith.
a whistleblower.
It was
Jada Pinkett?
Hold on, it's rumors about the Scientology, but he has spoken favorably about it.
That's crazy.
Quote, I just think a lot of the ideas in Scientology are brilliant and revolutionary and non-religious.
You know, I kind
Unquote.
of think if you have anything nice to say about Scientology, you're probably a Scientologist.
He denies the rumors, but I knew there was something.
Yeah.
He could feel it.
He's a Scientologist apologist.
like
Hey,
a
Dr.
BoJack
Seuss.
joke.
Thanks.
Scientologist celebrities.
Neil McBeal, the Navy SEAL.
That's what I was feeling. God, what a good show. What a sad show.
You do not steal from Neil McBeal, the Navy SEAL.
So wait a minute. We never got blunt.
Michael Pena is a Scientologist.
A lot of people. A lot of Hollywood.
I mean,
Johnny
to
T.
give you money.
Only if you're famous.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
And you got demons that they can blackmail you with. That's literally their thing.
Okay.
I read this article that everybody in Hollywood, before they get to be famous, like Spielberg and stuff, they have to be recorded doing very, very, very terrible illegal things, so that they'll always have to listen to the like Hollywood Illuminati. And
I mean,
was-
that would make sense. I don't know.
In certain cases, but when you think about people like Scorsese who end up being hated by so many
Yeah,
people and yet
it's-
still somehow manage to have a career.
Because it's probably not everybody. And it's like, how organized of a group is this?
there's
Mhm.
a conspiracy for everything.
Hey, I guarantee, though, there's some level of that at some point in time.
yeah.
Undisputable.
Oh, yeah,
I
well,
mean,
the
there was a
government
point in
definitely
time where
gets involved in movies, no question.
There was a
Yeah.
point in time where no one thought Harvey Weinstein like had just like a
Right.
web of things going on.
Well,
It's-
not in the public consciousness, but apparently if you were in Hollywood, you knew.
Oh, well,
Mm.
maybe it's
Well,
the
it's
same
like-
goddamn
yeah,
thing.
probably.
It's like the R. fucking Kelly thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
All of it.
Anyway,
That's how all things are.
yes,
A secret until they're not.
yes,
Bad.
Anywho, let's be blunt.
yes.
Call That Money Rocks. I don't know. I put it in a canon.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I would.
Yeah?
I would.
In terms of like, it's important in his filmography. It's the thing that got him money. It's the thing
I
that let
think.
him make
I
his dream
think. I
project.
think personally, it's important in that sense, and I think it establishes a shift in his in the way that he's seen probably by the public at that point. I don't think it made him a household name necessarily, but I think that it certainly put him in better graces right before he was about to fall out of them completely, to only go right back into them again. But if we're talking about importance in cinematic history, I don't know if you can say that it's integral.
We didn't say that was the definitive marker of what gets in or not.
Yeah.
And
I like this better than Raging Bull as a movie.
me too. Oh, definitely. For me, it's on par with New York, New York right now. And I think I only give the edge to New York. I being Frank.
I'm Jesse.
Brandon.
I think I only give the edge to New York, New York because I feel like that will more quickly be one of my favorites before this, of all time.
Yes.
But I don't know. Both could be because they're both great. Fuck it. Yeah, I can go in canon. I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. But here's my 2 cents for why I think it should be in. That it is underappreciated in the Scorsese canon, unrightfully so. So we might as well put it in because most people aren't.
Yeah, you want to know why it was super underappreciated?
Why?
Well, actually, that's not why. There's a big reason why Scorsese may have seen it as a failure at the end of the day, and that's because it is the
Oh.
only movie that Roger Ebert reviewed negatively
Yeah.
of Scorsese's movies.
I know that's
And
the
his
famous
review
thing.
disappointed the shit out of him. I know that. It felt like he had let down a friend or something.
Ebert gave it 2.5 out of 4, which actually isn't as bad as I thought. But the first, can I just read the first paragraph?
Yes.
If this movie had been directed by someone else, I might have thought differently about it because I might not have expected so much. But The Color of Money is directed by Martin Scorsese, the most exciting American director now working, and it is not an exciting film. It doesn't have the electricity, the wound-up tension of his best work, and as a result, I was too aware of the story marching by. And then talks about how it's deliberately mainstream and a popular subject, and finishing.
But see, if those are reasons, if those are deterrents for Ebert, those are points of positivity for me.
Yeah,
I think that
Roger
the fact that
Ebert's a hipster.
he can wrangle up all of those elements into one movie and make it work in some capacity is pretty
astounding.
Yeah, astounding to begin with, but the fact that he does it so well, and it holds up to today's standard, even with all the
Definitely.
dated elements and stuff. But I mean, hey, that's also personal preference. So I mean, it might not work for everybody. I think it's an entertaining movie flat out at the end of the day, no matter what, too. So it's easier to embrace for most. I would assume anyway.
Yeah.
Still.
So I mean, we obviously all disagree with Ebert, and that definitely is a part of the negative reputation. I mean, Ebert wrote the first book on Scorsese, and he gave Who's That Knocking on My Door 4 stars.
Yeah.
He was always a champion.
If people are basing their opinions around what Ebert thought at the time, seeing him review a Scorsese movie poorly probably did not look good for him at the time.
Right. And
Certain people may have avoided it.
but I'm definitely down with putting it in, and I think people should see it.
Yeah, I think more or less simply because of the fact that, more people need to see
So
this
then
movie.
that means The Hustler is by
Proxy.
association.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. I guess so. Hustlers in the canon.
Cool.
Welcome, Paul Newman. You're in here twice.
That's cool. And he's only in the canon once with Scorsese, so he did that. That's good on Paul Newman.
Yeah.
He
Same
managed to
thing-
sneak himself in an extra time.
You're welcome.
Good job.
Yeah. You're welcome, Tom Cruise, Paul
so-
Newman.
The other thing I want to talk about today, and I probably should have gave you time to think of a couple examples, but I got plenty. So sequels, the best
Like favorite
ones.
sequels.
Favorite sequels or sequels where you think it does it right. I think this is an ideal example of what a sequel should do.
Yeah.
Because you're building upon this past and you're focusing on the growth of the character
Yeah.
opposed to continuing the plot, but there is also clear reckoning with the original in its echoes that do exist.
Yes.
And I don't know. I think this is honestly one of the best sequels. My personal favorite obviously is Before Sunset, which
Interesting.
is, I mean, I think as far as
I don't think it is your personal favorite, because I was going to say I think both of us share a personal favorite.
What am I forgetting?
The Return.
Yeah, okay.
That's a sequel if you
Yeah,
think about it.
I know. Just I guess
or I'm prequel, but the Fire Walk with Me.
See, I'm talking pure sequel.
Yeah.
I thought about Fire Walk with Me, and I thought about.
But I think if you're thinking of The Return as a sequel to,
You're right. I always just forget that it's like I view The Return as its own thing almost, just because it's so
I get that,
fucking perfect.
but it would go under
Yeah.
the adapted screenplay category.
But it is also a sequel to a show.
Yes.
And it itself is technically a show, even if we count it.
Do you want to get into semantics?
So, okay, The Return is like the asterisks, like obviously that is the perfect way to continue a
the
story.
standard,
Yeah,
like
it
literally
should
the
be.
gold
It
standard.
should be the gold standard for all writing, period.
Yeah,
like
straight
of
up.
the filmic medium, television or film.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the more standard definition, Before Sunset is my favorite. I mean, Before Midnight would be up there too, but I like Before Sunset's my favorite of the trilogy, and that is such a amazing look at time and growth and character and the
Right.
perfect. Obviously, they're all intrinsic to one another.
Yeah.
So that's a sequel where it's building one larger story over the course of multiple movies. And on another one, I think honestly, my second favorite might be Toy Story 2.
I mean,
Which-
that's a great example.
which is my favorite Toy Story. And I think that is not continuing the story per se, but building upon the world and then like the existential drama of Toy Story that is present.
Right.
Like, I think both of those take all three movies that I've now mentioned, including Color and Money, I think all expand upon the original in ways where you're pushing out toward the world
Yeah.
without just doing the same thing again. Because that's the worst sin of a sequel, right?
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I'm watching the same movie. No, that's it. That's the sin.
Well, I was going to say, to come at it from another way, I can name a couple off the top of my head that I wouldn't say carry the lineage of the narrative or move it along in a way that like makes it like a piece that you should digest
Mhm.
like in the same order, right? Like, to see one and to then see the other is rewarding, but it just inherently from the narrative. But I think that there are examples of movies that take the idea or the template that the original had put forth and create something almost totally different, not
Mhm.
necessarily in narrative, but style and like character and everything else. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is probably my key example.
Okay. I was
but-
curious what.
I mean, it's just the rompiest of romps and goes through every level of cinema that you could possibly imagine. Love
so
it.
that's a nice like reinvention, like
Yep.
almost basically not a sequel, but is still a sequel.
Yep, and another example you could lay out is The Silence of the Lambs, because that's nothing like Manhunter, though Hannibal Lecter is now in the cinematic lexicon because of that film and Michael Mann, and Jonathan Demme's style is nothing like Michael Mann's style, and The Silence of the Lambs is almost nothing like Manhunter, but if you're considering it based on characters appearing
If
throughout
that's so, yeah,
series of films,
if you're counting it in that way, because
because that's what I was going to say, they're not direct sequels, but technically you should see the other one first to give the other movie a bit more weight.
I suppose.
I think
I
seeing
mean,
Manhunter
I've never
before,
seen Valley of the Dolls.
well, I've seen both, and I don't think seeing Valley of the Dolls gives weight to seeing Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, because I think one, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is just a far better movie by leaps and bounds than the original Valley of the
It is
Dolls.
awesome.
But I think having the context of the original Valley of the Dolls makes the play, like Russ Meyer, and ironically bring
Yeah.
up Roger Ebert again, the only screenplay he ever wrote, brilliant. But their like satirical update on that material adds a context if you see the first one.
Okay. Okay. What about like a more traditional sequel?
Give me some time. Brandon, take over.
I mean, I have other ones on my list that I wrote down.
Well, run
Well,
them down.
I want to think more about it, but I do. The first two that I thought of are gonna upset you guys, but I do think that they stand out.
Are they
And
both superhero movies?
yes, they're both superhero movies, but they're not a
I
part
wrote
of the
down one.
MCU. They're not a part of the MCU.
Okay, then I think
It
you're
is-
gonna name one.
Spider-Man 2, personally, the Sam Raimi one. Like ever since I was a kid, like I've always loved the trajectory of Peter Parker in that movie,
Yeah.
where he loses his powers and it's about him like trying to step away from being like a hero, but also wrestling like with his identity. And it's a lot.
Two, the one where they like the subway lifts him up because he stopped the train car, and yeah, that's good.
Two's with Doc Ock.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh yeah.
It is very, very, very good. It's also got one of the most like for me, Doc Ock was the only villain for a very long time for Spider-Man that like was humanized and very
Oh,
like,
yeah,
good.
okay.
Like by the end of the movie, like I don't know, he didn't feel like the worst villain to me. Like I felt bad for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one that I thought of was Logan. Logan is not necessarily a sequel. it is just it is the end of an era.
Mhm.
I think, and like it was talked about a lot at the time, and I think it got like a little bit too much hype, and people didn't talk about it for the right reasons. But Hugh Jackman has been or was our Wolverine for like the majority of like our generation's just like lives. Like that's who Wolverine was, and we've seen
and
him
the
in
fact
good,
that X-Men was also like the superhero movie that brought that genre to the mainstream.
It
honestly,
is.
without X-Men, there wouldn't be, like you wouldn't have an
Actually,
MCU.
not without X-Men, without Hugh Jackman. He's the reason those movies are successful. I
and
stand
give,
by that.
Give the credit only to him, please. Director doesn't deserve it.
Both both Brett Ratner too.
Literally.
But
like-
in that regard, I think that as even though it's not a direct sequel to like any particular Wolverine movie, because they're not all fucking great. I
Right.
don't think any of them are like really like set the bar until like this movie. Like I don't know, the way that it became so much less about like being a superhero and more about like the superhero as a person and just like reckoning with the things that you've done, and you like they took away like all like the X-Men like stars. You're only left with Patrick Wilson,
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. Those are like the two that you will recognize and see
Mhm.
for a majority, if not the entire movie. And I don't know, like it was very powerful to me. And I was like, this is how you stop something. This is like and if they make another Wolverine movie, they fucked up because Logan is one of the best of all time, and it's
Okay.
not a part of the MCU because I don't think they can't do something like that.
Yeah.
It's way too serious.
If you're talking about direct sequels, there's Terminator 2 as
Yeah.
a benchmark.
Judgment Day.
That's I mean, and that's brilliant in the literally flipping the first movie.
Yes.
Let's take the format and the plot, but then reverse everything.
Evil Dead 2.
A perfect updating / actual sequelizing of the predecessor and improving in every way.
Yeah.
Same thing with Good and Bad and the Ugly, and for a few.
Yeah,
dollars,
I've
Nolan.
never seen the Dollars trilogy, so I
So,
gotta
both
do it.
those.
Or
I-
Man with No Name trilogy, whichever you prefer.
I-
And then there's the Three Colors trilogy, and those are weirdly in their own inadvertent way direct sequel. Not inadvertent; they were meant to be together, but like they're not directly connected by narrative, just by like theme and tone and other things. And then the other performers and characters pop in other movies
That's
in the
what I
series.
thought. I've only
So,
seen Blue.
Jacques Demy also does that with his movies. Like, there's a lot of them that
Oh.
run because I was gonna say Umbrellas of
Lola
Cherbourg is
and-
technically a sequel
Right.
to Lola if you count the one character that pops in. And like that scene in the Umbrellas of Cherbourg where that character who is the protagonist of Lola runs down the story of the ending of Lola, and the character or the camera then cuts to traversing around the space in which the finale of Lola takes place. So good.
I need to see
So
Lola.
good. Lola's very, very good. Very good.
I mean, I thought you were going to say The Dark Knight when you were.
Oh,
bringing
well,
up-
I mean,
You're
yeah.
right.
honestly, and
Honestly though,
just a quick thing. I was thinking about this when I was expecting you to say it. It's not a direct thing off Heat because do you ever spend time with just the Joker in Dark Knight?
Yes.
a
Are you
little
sure?
bit.
Well,
Yes.
like
For
him
longer
and
than
a
other
minute.
villains, but not by
like,
himself.
Joker
no.
by
Oh,
himself?
yeah.
No.
Yeah, there's the one scene literally where he burns the money.
It burns the mind. The one where he gets the pencil in the guy's head. Batman's not there. Like
Okay.
when he also gets the guy in the bag, like where he like killed the guy, and then he gives the story of his scars, and then the scene where he's like there's I mean he gives
plenty-
he
there's
gives the
plenty
story of the
of-
scars a lot of times.
There's
But
plenty of not Batman, but there's none of like you don't get
I mean Pacino's
the
always
Joker's
on De
character
Niro's
arc.
ass. He's
Right.
just never with him.
yeah,
except
but you
more
get
than once
De
or
Niro's
twice.
character arc.
Right.
You don't get Joker's character arc.
Right.
But I also think that he's not making it direct link with Heat.
Uh-huh.
But like, come on, man.
I
Yeah.
guess
Might
they're
as well
pretty
be.
similar.
And
okay,
a couple other weird sequels that I love: Magic Mike XXL.
Nice.
Jesus.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Nice. Yeah.
Die Hard with a Vengeance.
It's better than Die
Fucking
Harder.
rules.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's the second best of the series.
Yeah.
Live Free or Die Hard. It's pretty good.
Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, not a direct sequel, a completely new take on a different narrative, but supposed to be in the same series.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Oh, Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and The Exorcist 3.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's lots.
We could just go on and on and on with certain ones.
So I was just trying to see like the
But
staples.
But ones that are like better than the original, I'm not sure. I do want to say
Well-
shout to Godfather 2 stands. We see you. I just got to see the movie
Yeah.
again because I know everyone would probably what the fuck?
Yeah,
You
I'm
didn't
not-
say Godfather 2.
I'm not sold.
Born Supremacy. That's definitely the best
the best
movie
of-
of the series.
I mean, I think Toy Story 2 is the best. Before Sunset.
Mad Max Fury Road.
For a few dollars more, probably Fury Road will end up being the best in the series.
Yeah.
Is Color of Money better than The Hustler?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So sequels can be done right. It's hard to remember in the industry churning days
Yeah.
of remakes and sequels, but there are ones that seem worthwhile. I guess that's more what I was curious about.
Sorry if we left out any of your favorites.
Mm,
Oh, the Mission Impossible series too.
yeah,
Those got a bunch, and obviously the James Bonds.
sure.
You could probably find a few.
Email or tweet at us your favorites.
So, what's everyone watched recently?
The first thing I watched after Color Money. Now I'm actually hesitant if I want to recommend this because that's what this is supposed to be, right? Recommending people to watch things.
I mean, I guess.
All right, here I'm doing two half ones. These are half recommendations, people. The first half is Listen Up, Philip. This is only recommended to a very specific type of person listening to this. If you can handle the shithead protagonists who don't learn, if you like watching people be awful, but like a filmmaker who's aware of what they're portraying, and the movie itself maybe doesn't put the judgment on them, but the filmmaker clearly is, and we, the audience, are. If you can somehow find some value in mining through that, then I recommend this to you. There's a lot of really great dialogue, a lot of great performances, a lot of interesting ideas. There is a whole section that I forget that people love that say redeem the movie because it follows the shithead protagonist's like girlfriend and like pays attention to her for a whole like 25-minute stretch, which I didn't love, but it's a really good movie. It feels like a sequel to Rushmore. It isn't at all because completely different filmmakers, but it's literally like what if Max Fisher grew up and was a novelist in New York, and it's just Jason Schwartzman being a dick for like an hour and 40 minutes, and it's kind of hilarious. I don't know. It's the second Alex Ross Perry movie I've seen, and I thought it was much better than Her Smell. So this is like a half recommendation.
I know that Her Smell is a movie.
Yes.
But it sounded like you said you like this movie more than Alex Ross Perry's Smell.
Well, I might.
Alex Ross Perry,
Barry.
not Barry.
You don't know that?
I do actually.
Well, if you can provide proof.
So my other half recommendation is actually just aping off of ones you guys gave weeks ago. I just want to remind Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. I caught up with it and I recommend it as well. Check it out. Those are my half recommendations. If you haven't watched Pop Star yet, watch it. And if you are one of the few individuals who the Listen Up Philip boxes check, I guess watch that too.
So are you saying I shouldn't watch Listen Up, Philip?
Please don't. I don't want to hear about it. You'd hate it.
Doesn't sound like I like it too much.
You wouldn't.
But it has merit, right?
I think so.
Are you a bad person?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
Almost certainly. Jesse, what have you watched lately?
Prince of Darkness,
Ugh.
John Carpenter,
Why'd you? Ugh.
Just
because he hates me. Anyway, let's be blunt. He hates me. I watched Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter's second movie in his Apocalypse trilogy, which it doesn't count as a real sequel because it's not a, like, I think Carpenter has stated that he sees it as a trilogy,
Yeah.
be The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness.
The Thing is a part of that?
Yeah, The Thing is the first one.
I didn't know that.
Mhm.
I knew the other two.
Yeah, so Prince of Darkness is the center of that trilogy, and weirdly enough, I'm shocked to say this, but it shot up to number 2 on my Carpenter ranking, above The Thing, which
That's
sounds sacrilegious.
madness.
Sounds sacrilegious even to me, especially because the first couple of times that I saw Prince of Darkness, it didn't hit me nearly as hard as it did this time, because I think, oddly enough, similar to Color of Money, I was off-put by some of the cheesiness, some of the dated elements of it, that are just intrinsic to John Carpenter's movies, because I think that's part of his style at the end of the day. Like, even the other night I had that conversation with Birdman, and he brought up, he's like, well, I guess because I said an outlier in the cheesy elements is The Thing, even though I think there are plenty of people that would make arguments that it's still cheesy, but I think that,
if anything, the cheesy comes from the dated effects,
yeah,
maybe.
it's a dark movie, but fucking Prince of Darkness is even darker, and I think the cheesy elements almost make it that much darker when you're really looking at it from that lens. But he mentioned how Halloween would be up there too, and I'm like, no, Halloween's fucking cheesy as shit. Like, I love it. It's my favorite Carpenter movie. It's like in my top 10 of all time, but it's fucking cheesy, and that's part of why I love it. But that's part of why I love Carpenter when I really think about it. So I gotta forgive that in certain movies.
Yeah, he's got a lot of cheese in him.
The
Yeah.
way you described Prince of Darkness, it sounds intense.
Well, I was just
Anti-God,
yeah,
bad
I was
Jesus.
gonna particularly recommend it to Frank, because Frank loves his dose of cold nihilism, and I think this might be
Sometimes.
Carpenter's most nihilistic movie yet. Like, or yet. I mean, he might not ever make a movie again, so it probably is his most nihilistic movie.
He's too busy playing video games.
But I like him at his best when he's nihilistic, because I think
Excuse me?
that this Halloween and The Thing are all pretty nihilistic movies, and those are my faves. It's much more layered than I'd originally given it credit for. There's way more going on in the narrative than I'd originally seen, but on each rewatch that I've come back to it, I've liked it even more, picked up on way more each time. And I think the thing that I also picked up on this time that I liked especially was the fact that it's sort of a Carpenter funhouse movie where it's sort of everything he's ever done wrapped into one movie. All the style tropes, all the genre elements, all the obsessions, all the themes, all of them are encased in this movie, with maybe the exception of something like Starman, but I haven't seen that, so I'm not sure. But he plays with all the same kind of atmosphere, same kind of mood, and it's at its most idiosyncratic here. The pace is very strange and off-putting, and I think that also played into what made me not distanced from it at first, but I don't know. It's definitely a full 5 now. I loved it. Thought it was great. Definitely highly recommend to anyone who's a fan of genre cinema or John Carpenter.
Funny enough, there's 3 movies between The Thing and Prince of Darkness, and 3 movies between Prince of Darkness and In the Mouth of Madness.
So he made 2 trilogies between the trilogy.
So, Brandon, what have you watched lately?
Recently, was riding on that wave of Tom Cruise and decided to sit down with my main man, J-Man, and watch the first Mission Impossible. Yeah,
Was that your first time seeing it?
it was my first time seeing it. I'd never
Nice.
seen, and now obviously, you know, I had seen the iconic dun, 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 you know, him like straddling down, but I never had like any context. And honestly, you know, I'm pretty good, at least with like the more mainstream, you know, AAA movies. Like I can like kind of like guess the trajectory, like, oh, this is about to happen. Like this is probably about to happen. And that doesn't necessarily take away from the movie, but it's just something that, at least like in my adult years, or at least even like in high school, just something I found myself doing when movies just get to be a little bit predictable after you've seen enough of like the same type of movie. And so in my head, it was going to be another like action spy movie where it's like, espionage, gotta be cool. But honestly, it took me by surprise. Didn't know Vin Rames was in it. Didn't know that he was going to be like an important staple character of the series that Jesse let me in on.
He comes back.
He's like, just so you know, he comes back. And I was like, oh, I'm in. He goes, just so you know.
Like 4?
He's like, just so you know, Philip Seymour Hoffman is the villain in 3. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm in.
That's
I'm in.
the only Mission Impossible I haven't seen. And I
And
hear he's the best villain of the whole series.
We were also
he's awesome.
we were also on this whole kick about like just appreciating martial arts movies, and like specifically Jackie Chan, about how he does his own stunts and about how he films what he films because he can do his own stunts.
Yeah, authenticity.
And like being able to recognize that in Tom Cruise, because he's another person who
He commits.
there's a part in Mission Impossible where he is running down a glass building, like just straight up, just straight up running down it. And as I'm looking, and like they do the camera in a very specific way where it's like pretty far out, so like you can see that it's him and that it's a person, but it's making it so that you can see that it is actually him just running down this building, and it looks terrifying. There's like 3 moments where I'm like, oh, you're about to fall and die. And I don't know, it's a very intense movie. It took me by surprise at more than one point, and I really enjoyed it. Like I'm excited to watch the other ones. I've always like never been particularly invested in watching the Mission Impossible series because, you know, it's just like it's so mainstream. I thought it was just gonna be like
I want to watch
your
them.
basic like action movies, but right now I'm in. It's pretty cool.
I wonder if The Color of Money was the first time Tom Cruise was like, I'm doing it myself.
Probably. I mean, there hadn't been too much before then. I doubt he learned how to like fly a fighter jet for Top
Well, I
Gun.
know, but I'm saying like
Probably
he didn't
does now.
yeah.
I thought he didn't even know how to. I thought in Top Gun they don't even like fly. Like
I've
there's no.
never seen
Oh
it.
no,
I've never
there's no
seen it.
war in Top Gun. We talked about war movies. Remember that time at work where we did the
Yes,
the Blockbuster game?
Yeah.
And then we're like, Top Gun, is that a war movie? No, takes place during a war, but there's no like war.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise like honestly needs to be appreciated like as a physical performer as well as an actor.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't wait. I hope he does the thing where once he's old enough and like can't do his own stunts, he goes back to like, all right, I'm going to be a serious actor again.
I think the public persona is the reason people see him the way they do, and the
Yeah.
Scientology and the you're
Which-
nuts and you're crazy. Which
like,
I mean,
at
like,
least
hey,
he's not
all-
harming people.
No, well, I don't know. But you
Well-
could make the argument for Katie Holmes, but like, who the fuck knows what the hell happened with that Scientology?
I don't know
We'll keep
much
that under
about
wraps
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he's just he's a crazy man.
I just know he's crazy. Like he's manic, but like
He is.
most good actors end up
You
being
have to
that
be.
way.
On screen, though, I love it.
It does feel like Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut drained the like serious actor out of him, and he went, "Okay, I'm just having fun from now on."
Probably. And
Just
the fact that he divorced Nicole Kidman hot off Eyes Wide
Yeah.
Shut, too. Like, imagine working with fucking Stanley. Like, I never
Yeah.
want to make a serious movie again.
Yeah, it won't compare.
That's true. It would not. And hey, Pool in that movie, too. Funny.
Hey.
It's all connected. Illuminati confirmed. Eyes Wide Shut did it first.
All right.
Anyway.
But that will be something we talk about eventually.
So yeah, I would say give it a watch, Keith.
Is he our modern Buster Keaton? Is it Tommy
Tom
C?
Cruise? Yeah.
I think so. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him indeed.
Good for you, Tommy.
I'm sure that's not an original thought.
Well, unless you
So-
consider Jackie Chan, because he still works.
Buster. Yeah, but I feel
He
like
directs, too.
but dipping into the romanticism and the like charm, I think Tom Cruise is better.
Yeah. And at least as an American
Comparison.
movie star, too.
True.
So, I guess
I typed in Tom Cruise Buster Keaton, nothing immediately stood out.
that sucks.
So I'm a genius.
Well,
Way to go.
I guess this has been the Chronic Canon.
Yeah.
Yet another episode. I hope you guys dug it if this was your first time listening. And
I'm
if
so
this wasn't
sorry.
your first time listening, yeah, we're sorry again. It's
Yeah. We
We're just
are
gonna-
apologetic that we're doing this and that you're listening.
We hope you continue.
yeah, for real.
I do.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
Keep
nice to have you around.
It's
We
gonna-
can't hear you, but you can hear us.
It's weird. We'll see how it gets weird with the Jesus flick.
Yeah, we're reaching a pretty important moment in
Last
Scorsese's career.
Temptation of Christ is next, you guys.
And we are going to do it where we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, we'll
So,
see
yeah.
you guys soon. We got plenty of episodes to talk this today. So
I'm Frank.
I'm Jesse.
Brandon, see you later.
You going to do it?
Goodbye.